Welcome in to Check the Mic. Steve Palazzolo, Sam Monson, live on YouTube. And we're continuing our series, Fixing Every Team in 5 Minutes. It's all brought to you by FanDuel in the Antonio Cromartie studio, in part with Huggies. I'll shut up now. How you doing?
Okay.
No, I got feedback. Talked too much at the beginning.
I like that now that we've got the sound back through the headphones over there in the computer, it's almost like taunting you, you know? It's like you can hear what we should be able to hear through the IFBs, but you can't hear them through
People
the IFBs.
don't know that these are broken.
Broken.
They're broken.
They don't now. I think I'm just going to get to that part. Point is, now that we fixed the sound through the headphones, it's just like a mocking, you know. You can hear the sound, just not through the thing you need to hear it.
People still don't know what you're talking about, but yeah.
The thing that we use to hear, which are called IFBs, which are just earphones, it just stopped producing sound recently.
Yeah, if we had a guest on, we'd be in trouble.
Right? Yeah, well, we would have to listen carefully because the only sound would be through the headphones that are attached to the computer about 10 feet to the left.
Continuous work in progress here. So, as I mentioned throughout the weeks here, special week. We had a bonus show yesterday, bonus show coming out Friday. We're going team by team, division by division, all 32 teams in 4 days. What?
I just Will has a better segue than you do. Can't fix our headphones, but we can fix every team.
We can't fix. Well done. So we're on to the AFC and the NFC West today. Tomorrow we'll hit 2 more divisions and then 2 more on Friday. I know we surprised everybody with a Tuesday show yesterday, so be sure to go check that out, even if you're not a fan of the team. It's all a big thought exercise as we go team by team and give everybody Isaac Seumalo to start at left guard. That's what we're going to do.
That's your one.
Not Morgan Moses this year. All right, man. Anything else at the top?
Or hide the logo lest Harrison get upset.
Reminder about the process. We joke about it being 5 minutes. It's not really 5 minutes. That was the initial intention 6 or 7 years ago. We're going to aim for about 15 minutes per team. State of the team, needs, some free agent options, some draft options fixed, and then we'll see it all unfold, or at least the beginning of their offseason plans unfold next week.
Sounds good.
All right, we're starting in the AFC West, going alphabetically. Starting with the Denver Broncos. Broncos coming off an AFC Conference Championship appearance. Disappointing loss to the New England Patriots. Broncos in a really good spot. And look, we spent a lot of last offseason saying of all the teams, I think that are following our strategy of, hey, don't go into the draft with a lot of holes. The Broncos have been doing it, and they're still in pretty good shape heading into next year. A few more holes to fill maybe this year versus last year. But Denver, with a strong roster, the rookie contract quarterback in Bo Nix, middle tier as far as cap space goes, a lot of draft capital, all of their first 3-round picks, 2 in the 4th, and not a ton of massive free agents for the Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, this roster has been in pretty good shape for a while now. I guess the question for them is star power. Do they have enough elite players for this to be a genuine Super Bowl kind of team? But, I mean, they might have been a Super Bowl team a year ago, but for that injury. The injury that nobody thought happened until, it turns out Bo Nix is gone now. So, who knows? Maybe it is enough already. But, yeah, this is business as usual, steady as she goes for the Denver Broncos. Just don't do anything crazy.
So, let's start on the offensive side of the ball. They have built – it's funny because if you go back, remember the very first moves that Sean Payton made, that the regime made with Sean Payton was, they had Russell Wilson at quarterback, and then they said, we're going O-line, right? We're bringing in Ben Powers. We're bringing in Mike McGlinchey, 3-4 years ago. We're talking early wave of free agency, and those guys are still there. They have built one of the better, more consistent offensive lines in the NFL.
Yeah,
they're in a good spot.
The development of Quinn Miners into one of the best offensive linemen in football from a Division III, Division II, with some incredibly small school, Wisconsin Whitewater, right?
I think it's D3.
Blocking trees in COVID or whatever he was doing.
Yeah, if you could block a tree, you could block a man. That's what they say.
I think that's true.
Well, anyway, great offensive line, and they've taken some shots. So the skill positions in Denver are probably going to get the attention, even though they spent a second rounder. This is what's interesting, right? Second rounder on R.J. Harvey last year. Second rounder on Marvin Mims a couple years ago. Fourth rounder on Troy Franklin. Third rounder, I believe it was, on Pat Bryant. A lot of draft capital going to these skill positions, and you're still probably coming into the season man, is there still an upgrade there?
Yeah.
And I think all of those guys, Pat Bryant showed a lot down the stretch. Marvin Mims, Franklin, they all had their moments, but is there still a need for, it doesn't have to be the number one receiver, but just a big-time receiver to complement Cortland Sutton? And then from a running back perspective, I know people say, hey, still need an upgrade over Harvey. Is that something they're going to attack here?
Yeah, well, whether it's an upgrade over Harvey or just a complementary piece, a thunder to his lightning for R.J. Harvey. I mean, they got better every time J.K. Dobbins was in the lineup last year. That's not unique to Denver. Everybody tends to get better when J.K. Dobbins comes into their lineup. In part, it's because he's a really good running back, but also, everyone's running with a committee at the moment. So at the moment, their committee, R.J. Harvey, is leading it. I think ideally you would want R.J. Harvey being a secondary or tertiary piece to your committee. So I don't know that you don't need a running back to come in to be this massive upgrade over R.J. Harvey. I think you just need another guy to come in and who can also be a big part of it.
It's a good year for complementary
It is.
running backs in free agency, whether you talk shout out to Walt. He does mention Tyler Algier.
Tyler Algier is a good call.
I think that is a good shout as, a compliment to R.J. Harvey.
He also
Rashad
doesn't
White.
fumble, so we can't possibly get into Sean Payton's doghouse.
I know.
Immediately.
It's a great point. Kenneth Gainwell, who's done a lot, as far as the pass game goes. We know that, Peyton likes to use the backs out of the backfield to catch the ball. Rashad White, former Buck. I mean, there's a lot of those backs out there. I think you gobble up one of those running backs to complement R.J. Harvey, get your 1-2 punch there, and then take a look at receiver. You've mentioned Romeo Doubs for a couple different teams. Is that the type of 2.5-ish receiver, wide receiver 2, and I'd call him like a 2.5. He's okay. Do you trust him all like a Corey Davis light?
Isn't that 1.5?
Corey Davis was always a 2 for me, despite my love for him coming out of the draft.
But a 2.5 suggests somewhere between 2 and 3.
That's what I'd say. That's what I think Dobbs is. I don't think he's a high. Like there are some high end wide receiver 2s.
Yeah.
I think if Dobbs was a true 2, I think he stays in Green Bay as that consistent threat. Or maybe that's just redundant to what else they have there.
I don't think it's redundant, but I think ideally you're looking for something higher than that. I think Dobbs is the type of receiver that would make basically any receiving core in the NFL better. The question is how high, in the pecking order does he fit if you bring him in? So if I'm Denver, I'm trying to find somebody that's bringing something slightly better to the table than Dobbs. I like still the potential of what they have in all those young guys that you mentioned, like Cortland Sutton obviously is the proven high-end player, but the combination of Franklin, Bryant, and Mims, I think all those guys have shown something to varying degrees, and then you can still potentially project, some growth development this year. But in an ideal world, you don't want to be relying on that. You want to have like an absolute cast iron, solid number 2 in there, and then if and when those guys develop into something beyond that, great.
Would they be in the market for one of those speed receivers, or is that too redundant too? I think they should. I'm with you. I think they should lean into Mims a little bit more on the outside. And I know we were both Troy Franklin fans. He's inconsistent, but showed a lot more.
Oh, this was so much better than the first year. Like his rookie year, you're like, man. I mean, he gets open a lot, but I don't know that there's any use in it because of everything else that happens in his game. Last season, it's like, no, he can. Like, he's a pretty useful receiver. He's still open a lot deep, and this time Bo Nix was able to find him more. And, he's reasonably dynamic on kind of the gadget play stuff underneath that they're giving him the ball. I think he's a useful receiver, again, with the potential to get even better this year. But the thing for a team like Denver who has Super Bowl aspirations now is you want to be eliminating the what-ifs. Like, what if none of these guys get any better next year? Because they're all young. You project growth, but what if the growth doesn't happen? Well, then you want the second guy that can come in and it doesn't matter.
That's why I like the idea of veteran wide receiver. I think tight end, again, they brought in Evan Ingram last year. You talk to Denver beat writers and everything. They're like, man, dude, if they designed a screen for him, he could catch it and run up the field. He wasn't really that mismatched type of weapon. I've mentioned Dallas Goedert. He's the top free agent tight end on the market. I wonder if Goedert would be a fit here or an Isaiah Likely.
Yeah.
I think they'll go the tight end route again in free agency.
Likely would be fun. Waller would be interesting given that he did look like he could play still in Miami. Now, that was before injury, and his career has been, punctuated by injuries on the regular. So the thing with Waller is less, can he play, and more, how long are you going to have him for before he inevitably gets hurt? If you think, you can keep him healthy, then Darren Waller is a huge weapon at tight end still. Former rapper, of course.
Best former rapper in the NFL currently. Other side of the ball, again, not many losses. John Franklin Myers hits free agency. Alex Singleton at linebacker. There's a lot of linebackers both in the draft and free agency, so finding somebody there. I think on the D-line, I look at a guy, Franklin Myers has that ability to move in and out, he's a disruptive player. I think he'll be pretty coveted by some teams who need pass rush help. A player like Sheldon Rankins, who's heading to team 5 in 6 years, right, as a interior pass rusher and penetrator, just to, continue to lean on opposing offenses. I think that Denver just has to stay the course, right? Like without a ton of needs.
Yeah.
Continuing to fill these depth pieces, a couple starting roles. They can roll 6 to 8 deep on the D line. I think they have to be able to maintain that both on the edge and on the interior. And it's those second tier, the Sheldon Rankins of the world, the Tim Settles of the world at defensive tackle that can continue disrupting up front for the Broncos.
And just, anytime a team thinks they're in good shape, you got to keep future-proofing because this all happens on a one-year cycle. Next year you got a bunch of players that are coming up. You need to have, you don't need to have prepared, but the more you can prepare a year in advance, theoretically, the better. It doesn't always work like that because sometimes you just miss on the player and you just don't find out for a year. But theoretically, Denver can add the depth pieces that become starters in a year's time.
And look, if they do that, all of our discussions are different, right? You have teams in rebuilding mode where we're saying, hey, just stay the course and draft. Teams that are a couple players that you're trying to figure out here. Broncos are in this, it's not a couple players away, but it is. It's adding a couple replacements and then continuing to add depth. And they went into the draft last year and didn't have to force picks. And I know Jahdae Barron didn't necessarily have a great season. They didn't need him,
right,
given the depth that they had in the defensive backfield. And I love when you draft against needs and, you draft strengths. But the argument against is like, hey, this guy didn't have to contribute. But I still think that's a better overall strategy from a roster building perspective, continuing to add that depth and add depth before these become holes. And I think if they just make a few of these moves in free agency, they get into the draft and they can literally draft the best, most valuable players available on the board.
Is there anyone that they have in terms of an upcoming free agent from their own team that you would bring back? So they're losing Alex Singleton, linebacker, who was an amazing story last year, came back from cancer, ended up playing, was a very good player for them. John Franklin Myers, who's still a good player on the rotation up front. On the defensive line, J.K. Dobbins, we talked about before, and then some depth pieces in terms of all the all the guys that Sean Payton likes and brought in immediately. Little Jordan Humphrey, Adam Troutman, all the former Saints are now hitting free agency.
Well, you have to bring back a little Jordan Humphrey.
Of course, Michael Burton, the fullback.
You have to keep those guys. I'm thinking John Franklin Myers. I think you might want to keep the band together up front on that defensive line. Don't you think? Franklin Myers is a good player. I would at least let him explore the market. Singleton's a guy I'd be potentially bringing back. PJ Locke, by the way, is another guy that they're losing at safety. I'd be interested in Singleton and bringing him back. I think he played really well when he came back. Nobody cares about the story in terms of internally. Like, it's not a reason to bring a guy back. But I feel like there's something there in terms of his leadership within the building. The defense was amazing. The more you can keep that intact, the better. It's a good year, actually, to need linebackers. So if you do lose him, it's not the end of the world. But I would be trying to bring him back, I think. That's what I mean. Devin Lloyd's the big name in free agency among linebackers. But if they brought in a Caden Ellis from the Falcons, Alex Anzalone from the Lions, Bobby Okereke just got released yesterday by the Giants. There are, even just like a Demario Davis who could still play.
Dude, he's still so
at
good.
This point in his career if he wants to go try to make a run elsewhere. And reunion with Sean Payton there as well.
Yeah.
That's I feel like you can let Singleton test the market and see.
And the great Nakobe Dean.
And the great Nakobe Dean.
He's my Morgan Mogus.
There's a lot of options.
I'm putting everywhere.
There's a lot of options at linebacker, which again is interesting when it matches with the draft being loaded at linebacker.
Yeah, draft strong as well. So it's a good. I ran through a 3-round mock for Denver.
Oh, I love when you do this live for me.
Lee Hunter, the bottom of the first round, Texas Tech defensive tackle. Then I got Josiah Trotter from Missouri, the linebacker, at the bottom of the second round.
Love that.
And then Kalen Rutledge, the Georgia Tech offensive lineman in the third round.
Yeah,
And,
continue to add depth on the offensive line. You can
and I was
always do
heckled
that.
from the mock draft sim was heckling me, telling me that I was a better pick to be had if I just selected a tight end instead.
Well, that's based off Trevor's board. They don't know.
I'm just
They
like,
don't know
look,
what
I'm
they're
not
doing.
interested in your criticism from the sideline. I'm the GM here. I don't want to hear it. Mock draft sim.
It's an interesting spot for Denver as well. I think they won a lot of one-score games last year.
Yep.
One of them was fake because the Raiders kicked a field goal to make it a one-score game late. But they won a lot of one-score games.
Ridiculous game, though.
So I think two things are true. Very good roster. We agreed last year at this time. Very good roster. They're very close. A lot of it always depends on how Bo Nix is going to play week to week. But the defense is legit. I thought they showed some weakness down the stretch on the defensive side of the ball, so continuing to add depth there. But they're in a really good spot, but also a regression candidate given how loaded the division is. Chiefs are still going to be good. I think they'll be back, right? I think they'll be back to being at least good and competitive, right? They have to be. Chargers are good. The AFC could be difficult. So there might be some regression here, but they're in a really good spot, I think, at this point of the season from a team building standpoint. I want to see if they're going to be aggressive. I think it's going to be for pass catchers and say, look, the defense is really good. Continue to tighten that up. How can we have a little bit more juice on the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah.
So if we do get into those shootout-ish situations, that we can compete.
Yeah, and they therefore would be another team that, if they want to make an aggressive move, maybe it's the trade market somewhere. Again, Alec Pierce, I think, is almost certainly going to get tagged if he hasn't been already.
He won't be. He can't be. Daniel Jones got the transition.
They got the transit. They can't use the transition and the franchise tag.
Pierce is. It's either a long-term deal or he's out there.
Okay, so I would be trying to get Alec Pierce for this team. Like, I think this is a team that actually makes a ton of sense for him. They could spend. He's a different player than Courtland Sutton. I'm not going to say Courtland Sutton isn't a good deep threat, because he actually is. But adding Alec Pierce to that receiving core would take away the uncertainty of what the younger guys are bringing to the table, still give you Courtland Sutton, and then if those guys develop you've got something pretty special.
All right, Denver Broncos. Gave them some options.
Yeah.
Fixed?
Sure.
Going on the AFC Championship and beyond. Going to the Super Bowl next year behind Bo. Get Bo healthy, man. All right, next up, Kansas City Chiefs. Coming off their worst season in a while. Patrick Mahomes coming off an ACL injury. And after 3 straight years in the Super Bowl, disappointed. Didn't even make the playoffs last year in Kansas City. So how do the Chiefs get back on track? And I think last year, so they revamped the roster in 2022 when they traded Tyreek Hill, went in there with a lot of uncertainty, drafted well, got back on track, win back-to-back Super Bowls, go to a third. This is probably the biggest offseason they've had since 22 when they revamped everything. I thought last year they trade Joe Tooney. They opted into a couple extra holes on the roster with that trade to try to think long-term. But now they're sitting here without a ton of cap flexibility. I see the negative $62 million on the screen. Obviously, they'll get over that number and have a little bit of flexibility, but not what other teams have.
I think they've already shifted that dramatically.
Yeah, right.
The second they did the Mahomes restructure,
right, that's all
that's baked into it. I think they went from 60 to 14 or something.
Right. They're all. Again, it's all fine. But Travis Kelce, free agent decision coming this week, like within the next few days, I believe, might be outdated by the time people are watching this. Questions at right tackle with Jawan Taylor going to be released at the beginning of the league year. So a lot of questions in Kansas City. And they're also picking 9th overall, picking in the top 10.
They are. It's a really interesting offseason for them. The most interesting one they've had, I think, for a long time, because usually when they've hit an offseason and when I say things have gone wrong, I mean they didn't win a Super Bowl. Usually when that's happened, there's been a fairly obvious, this is what we need to do to ensure that this Achilles heel never raises its head again. It's like crazy focus on the offensive line, whatever it is. I don't know what the learning from the season is from the Kansas City Chiefs. What's your big takeaway from that season? What's the thing we need to fix? I don't think there's necessarily here's the one crippling problem for this roster. It's like a lot of things weren't great last year for the first time in a while. And so I think it's very difficult for them to laser focus in on the thing to fix. in addition to, you don't have a ton of flexibility to get it done anyway.
Things are compounding because I don't think receiver is an absolute disaster, but the more Rashee Rice has off seasons, there's more questions there. And I think part of the problem, like if Rashee Rice was not an off-field concern, he's a very good player that you're gonna try to sign long term. And then if he's there, Xavier Worthy as a 2, as your deep threat, as your speed guy, is fine as a complementary piece. The problem is when Rice is either out of the lineup or uncertainty going forward, and Worthy can't be as dependable, right? He might be closer to a gimmicky type player than an every down threat. All of a sudden, receiver becomes a question. In addition to now it's like roster whack-a-mole that I always like to reference. Okay, now we need a right tackle. We have a stopgap in Jalen Moore, but there's a long-term need there. And then the defense had been very good, and then they just struggled on third down, rushing the passer with 4. So now you've got questions on the back end, questions up front. The run game was not explosive, even though they were run blocking pretty well up front. So there's kind of like a question all across the board. Receiver question, O-line question, D-line, and back 7. So it's just there's a lot to fix in an offseason for Kansas City.
And a lot of turnover. I mean, they're just allowing a lot of this roster is hitting sort of the expiring contracts, just not where they want it to be, more or less at the same time. You're losing a lot of defensive players. The receiving core is interesting because, we loved a guy like Jalen Royals last season, or I did in the draft. They drafted him, the 5th round? And then he just barely saw the field at all season long. Even late in the year when the season was already done. And it's like, why are we not – like the only thing you should be doing at this point is playing the likes of Jalen Royals, Brashad Smith, the running back, like all the young guys to find out, is there anything – A, do we have anything going forward? And B, could we accelerate their development a bit by actually getting them some game time late in the season? Even that wasn't happening late in the season, which was a curious kind of decision for them to make. But it means you do head into this offseason with huge question marks. Like Marquise Brown never really worked out for that team, was injured often from the second they signed him. Rashee Rice, as you said, is a very good player, but now a massive gamble about whether you can keep him on the field or not due to various off-field legal concerns. Xavier Worthy, I think, is a solid player, but he's a limited role player within the offense. So if you remove Rashee Rice from that depth chart, it's like you've got Worthy, who you're confident in, but you also know the limitations of what he is. Everybody else is a question mark. And then you've got Travis Kelce, who, if he comes back, is still a useful player within the offense, but is no longer the game-changing difference maker that he used to be. So suddenly you're just looking around going, this team doesn't have weapons anywhere.
So again, this could be outdated quickly, talking about Kelce. I feel like the longer it goes, the more likely he is to play.
But it's almost like it doesn't really matter. Like if Kelce comes back, you've got a solid, dependable tight end. If he doesn't come back, you don't have a tight end at all. So you're back to either way, you need an impact playmaker from somewhere, whether it's a tight end coming in, whether it's a wide receiver coming in, whether it's a running. Like you need probably all 3.
Right.
And this team doesn't have the flexibility to do that.
So up front, Jalen,
they can free up a ton of money.
I like what they did last year, signing Jalen Moore to 2 years, $15 million, and $15 million a year. And then drafting Josh Simmons. So you got Simmons at left tackle. Jalen Moore could play right tackle. He's got 1 more year left on his deal. So I think you're okay there. When you're picking at 9, we keep going back and forth. They're an interesting team because I think all the teams at 7, 8, and 9, it's like, well, Caleb Downs makes sense. Reuben Bain makes sense if he falls. An offensive tackle makes sense for the Chiefs because if you're at 9, what do? Do you take the best football player in a Downs that also fills a need, or do you say, again, we always say, we don't pick here very often.
Yeah.
We got to take one. We don't get opportunities to draft top 10 defensive linemen. We don't get chances to draft top 10 offensive linemen. It's just not common. So anyway, a lot of questions for Kansas City. How are we going to fix this thing?
So, okay, first and foremost, again, the cap situation for Kansas City, they have some money to spend, but they don't have a ton of money, right? Like forget the negative over the cap stuff. They have the ability to free up like another $50 million worth of space, right? So they could be players in free agency, but they're not going to be in a situation like, the Titans or whatever, where they could be market leaders for anybody they want.
Right.
So they're going to have to be judicious and pick and choose where they want to spend that money. I do think that they need to be interested in basically any offensive playmaker that's available, right? So at this point, even if you think it would be a smart thing to take him, I don't know that you can rely on Jeremiah Love making it to 9, right? That he's getting top 5 buzz all of a sudden. If he makes it past the top 5, the Saints pick one spot ahead of Kansas City, and they're potentially in the Jeremiah Love marketplace. I don't think you can rely on him making it to your spot, even if you thought it was a good thing to take him there. So I think they should be in the running back market. They tried to trade for Breece Hall last year. They didn't want to go to where the Jets wanted in terms of draft pick. Now the Jets are franchise tagging Breece Hall for whatever sense that makes.
And by the way, that's the right move, I think, for Kansas City. Had they given up a 3 for a half season of Breece Hall, and then maybe you get a comp pick back, but, the only thing that you would have – then you could have maybe tagged him the same way the Jets are, but you really want to spend that on a running back.
Or just extend – I don't know. If you're willing to go to a 4, I would have gone to a 3 if you thought that he was going to make that difference for you, but whatever. But are they – would you go to the top of the market with Kenneth Walker? I don't know how many teams are going to want to pay big money for running backs. There's still a fairly solid trend that the NFL has calmed down on second contract running back deals. Even Saquon Barkley took until after the contract and then went for 2,000 yards and then, now we can give him big money. Right? So is Kenneth Walker actually going to get massive money, or could Kansas City justify that? Or do you just go for the next tier down, the Tyler Algiers of the world that we talked about, that type of running back who, Algier would immediately come in and presumably replace what they had in Isaiah Pacheco when he was running really
But
powerfully.
today really, the stat that's out there is the lack of explosive plays from the running back.
Yeah.
And I think, Creed Humphrey at center, Trey Smith at right guard, the offensive lines, it's not like it's in shambles. And because they spread it out and they have Mahomes, teams have to try to stop the pass first. There's generally room to run in Kansas City, and that was their question. It's like we had Kareem Hunt just running 3rd and shorts and 4th and shorts, fine, and Isaiah Pacheco getting 3 at a time. So I don't know if I love Algier. I just don't know if I think they would try to go more of like the Travis Etienne. He feels more like a home run hitter because of his speed. He's only averaging 4.2 per carry in his career, and he's actually played a different style. But you can get him on the edge, get him into space. You can catch the ball out of the backfield. That feels like if they're going to make a power move, he'd be like the Breece Hall light option, because I think they were trying to go for more big playability at the running back position.
Yeah, but I think that's also connected to
1-year flyer on Dobbins.
Tyler Algier is never going to be the guy that gets 50% of his runs from explosive runs, but that doesn't mean you can't break off a 30-yard run if you get some good blocking and the rest of the offense is sound. I think a big part of their lack of explosive plays across the board is the pass game's not functioning. So, I think a big part of the run game's lack of Rashad Smith is an explosive player, but he didn't have necessarily the looks that would get in those kinds of runs because nothing was working in this offense. Everything was off. It's like an engine that's misfiring. It's theoretically this thing could be dialed in and give you the explosion that you need. It's just the timing's off. That's what Kansas City's offense was across the board. So the offensive line is not in bad shape. I think Jalen Moore coming in for at right tackle, I think could probably upgrade that spot as well. So the 5 that they have is probably a pretty good group.
Yeah, they could roll out there and play today. I think they're fine.
But they also need the receiving core to improve in order for the run game to improve.
And then, one of my questions at receiver, who is the guy who fits Mahomes, his style, and what they need? Because they've gone after Marquise Brown, 4-3 guy, Xavier Worthy, 4-2 guy. They were going after these speed receivers. Rashee Rice locked in as this slot, yak-heavy type of receiver. I know Denzel Boston, we keep mocking him end of the first. I kept watching him play thinking he feels like a really good fit for Mahomes and the Chiefs if he's around there in the second round. Potentially. I think he tracks the ball well. The deep ball has been non-existent in this offense. It was better last year. I would try to bring Tyquan Thornton back, by the way, on a cheap deal if possible. There was a point where he was the best receiver that they had. He was open behind the defense 2 to 3 times a game, which I always say is the most valuable thing you can do as a receiver. And he caught the ball more often than not, right? Including some contested catches.
Now the question would be, does that continue long term?
No, I get it. I'm just saying, on the cheap, I would bring him back as a deep threat. So I feel like we're asking more questions than giving answers. And if Kelsey retires, then it's like, all right, now do we have to go to the tight end market? Are we looking for?
I mean, if Kelsey retires, the Chiefs might be the first potential spot for Kenyon Sadiq in the draft. Like at 9, that might be his ceiling.
I feel like it'd be very difficult to take a tight end, given that you could use a long-term tackle and you need a defensive playmaker. So that's, I mean,
they might also be set at tackle. I mean, they brought in.
Jalen Moore could be the guy going forward
right.
too.
Like they brought him in with the idea that he could start for a couple of years. Now, one of those years already gone because but you got Simmons. That was probably a pick they weren't expecting to sort of fall into their lap. So I think the plan sort of changed slightly, but Simmons and Jalen Moore long term might be an answer for them.
So then we get to the defensive side of the ball. And I think there was a little bit of regression from Chris Jones. I think he's still really good. He's another one of the, I say 1 to 2 times a game. Like 1 to 2 times a game, he is instant winning up front against a guard and in the backfield. It's just not as often, maybe, as it was previously. And just overall defensive line help. They got George Karlaftis. They have Chris Jones right now. Drafted Omar Norman-Lott, but a few free agents up front. And, I mean, look, they need last year's draft picks. Norman-Lott, Ashton Galati, they need those guys to be better, but they need to add more depth there on the D-line as well.
Yeah. Again, I think the defense is the depth on the defensive side. I think is a little bit concerning at this point. Like they're losing a lot of players, not necessarily
Leo Chanel.
Yeah, not necessarily frontline starters, not necessarily the star players, but they're losing somebody from every level of the defense. They're losing multiple players, in fact, from every level of the defense. They just need to start throwing some resources at it.
And so what I think this season's going to look like, because you can't solve every hole with a free agent,
right?
Literally, you're losing a Jalen Watson at corner. I think Noel Williams, last year's mid-rounder,
he's good.
Steps in and starts there. Mm-hmm. You're losing Charles Omenihu, who's been in and out of the lineup. Derek Nottie, Jerry Tillery. You're losing some of this defensive line depth. Galati, Omar Norman-Lott, those dudes need to step up into more prominent roles. Maybe Jalen Royals needs to step up. Like there's a lot of pressure, I think, on last year's draft class to develop and become options here, where they were kind of low-end rotational players last year at this time. So that's number one. And then, with pick 9, I think you go Trenches or Caleb Downs. I think if Bain falls, you go that way. If the right offensive tackle's there, you can do that and future-proof that. But I think you got to go with the big dudes up front. They're also the most likely team for me to talk myself into Jeremiah Love's okay. Because I think in the Mahomes era, the pass game is going to be fine, good enough at worst. At best, they're really good, but you do add the explosive playmaker. They could easily talk themselves into Love is the right fit.
I think we're reaching the point now where, again, I just don't think he's going to be there. If he is, I think it depends on what they've done in free agency, whether or not it makes any sense to draft him.
Let me be clear there. I think they solve running back in free agency. Whether it's a first or second tier running back, I don't think they go into the draft with a massive running back need. And personally, I wouldn't do the Love thing, but I'm just saying you could talk yourself into it if you're a Chiefs fan, but even in the building with the Chiefs and say, we need any explosive playmaker next to Mahomes. Yeah, he's the one there.
They need so much added in free agency that it sort of makes their draft very difficult to project because, they could address wide receiver hard in the draft, but they could also hammer it in free agency, at which point it becomes less of a need. And, and this is sort of true for every position that they've got a need. Like, it makes some sense. So, all right, if we're doing this, what would we do in free agency? Where would you throw your money in free agency first and foremost? I think they have more needs on the offensive playmaker side, and that's where they need proven upgrades. Where would you throw your money? You want to bring back Tyquan Thornton?
I'd try to bring back Thornton on the cheap as a vertical threat with Xavier Worthy. That should stress the defense. And I look at a guy like a Juwan Jennings, who we've given to a lot of teams too, as a dependable third down option. If you had Jennings and Rashee Rice as your possession plus type of receivers, plus Thornton and Worthy with their speed, and then Travis Kelce's pending, right? He's pending. We'll see what happens. And then if he's there, on paper, that's a legitimate group, right? On paper last year, I don't think the group was bad with Rice, Worthy, and Marquise Brown. They had all those guys together for a while. It got stale. Didn't play great. They didn't play great. It just wasn't a good unit, but on paper, it wasn't awful.
I would love to see Wan'Dale Robinson in this offense. I think you've got an underneath, high volume, move the chains type of player who can also serve as a deep threat to a degree. I mean, last season, so he was a surprising deep threat last season in terms of his average depth of target almost doubled, and he made a bunch of catches deep down the field, and he's better at the catch point than you think a 5'8" receiver should have any business being. Now, that being said, I don't think he necessarily smokes people deep. I think a lot of that was Jackson Dart was the quarterback. Jackson Dart, ran around a lot, and suddenly when you do that, it's the Russell Wilson style of that will buy you some deep targets because of, just the way defenses react to a quarterback on the move. So I don't think it's necessarily true that, like, Wan'Dale Robinson isn't the budget Tyreek Hill, is what I'm saying, just because he found a deep threat to his game last season. But Mahomes does a lot of that stuff as well. Like, he can still run around. He can still open some deep targets up. Like, that part still plays. So I think Wan'Dale Robinson would be a really good addition to this offense. I don't mind bringing back Tyquan Thornton, but if you brought those two guys in, maybe one of the other sort of wide receiver twos in this free agent group, then you've got Rashee Rice coming back as well, Xavier Worthy as well. Suddenly the receiving core starts to look pretty good. If and when Kelsey retires, that's a potential problem, but I think you fix wide receiver at that point.
By the way, I hadn't mentioned his name, but at 9, I know I've mentioned how much I love Carnell Tate during our mock drafts. I'd be perfectly fine with I would be ecstatic with Carnell Tate at 9.
So I did a mock for them, and it spat out Carnell Tate available at the first thing, right? And then the second round was full of wide receivers as well. It's like, man, you could make really upgrade wide receiver here. It's a shame we just brought in 3 guys in free agency. But, yeah,
if I knew I could get Tate, maybe I would hold off on free agency, spend that on the defensive side of the ball and pass rush.
But that would be one a bit like Ibuka a year ago, where it's like, it wouldn't stop you doing it. Like, just because you've addressed free agency, if you then ended up with Carnell Tate falling into your lap, you still pull the trigger.
We got to wrap up the Chiefs here, but even if they go the free agent route, they got a Juwan Jennings, they got a Wan'Dale Robinson, you still don't trust. Like, Rice isn't getting a long-term deal from them. I can't imagine that they're going to give him
too much of a risk at
$25 million a year. So you need a cost-controlled receiver, and if Carnell Tate's there at 9, I think it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, agreed. Where was I going? I'm just going to do one more.
Did we fix?
Draft. So yeah, we made some upgrades. I then, having done our upgrades, I then threw another mock draft in, and we got Francis Maui-Noa in the top 10. Got to love that.
So there you go. Get some guard tackle flexibility.
That's the thing. So he could start, even if you don't want to play him at tackle right away, you can play him at left guard for a season and then kick him out long term. It's a bit of a jump going from left guard to right tackle, but it's doable. Year 1. Round 2, Omar Cooper.
Oh, I mean, that's a slam dunk draft.
100%.
There we go.
And then in the 3rd round, Michael Trigg, the tight end from Baylor.
Perfect.
So, fixed.
A receiver-ish tight end in Trigg.
Yep.
There you go. Chiefs are fixed. Last year's draft class, this year's draft, absolutely massive.
Yes.
For the Kansas City Chiefs. Going on to the Las Vegas Raiders. How are we going to fix the Raiders? When we did this exercise last year at this time, Sam, I said the Raiders, every move they need to make needs to be focused on 2026. And then they go and trade for Geno Smith. And I thought with John Spytek coming in, not Nathan Zagura, John Spytek. Mm-hmm. With him coming in, with Pete Carroll coming in, we thought he would just be the culture reset guy, transitional coach in his 70s. And we thought, okay, this is time to reset the whole thing. And they went the veteran route. At quarterback, it was a disaster. Everything was bad. Way worse than we expected. This is their chance for the big reset, including a potential Max Crosby trade. So let's start with that. We know the Raiders are almost certainly going to go for Fernando Mendoza.
Yep.
I think we would do the same, despite, listening to trade offers.
Always
I'd listen. But what are we going to do with Max Crosby? And then what are we going to do with a lot of draft picks, including 3 fourth-rounders?
I mean, if somebody's willing to give me multiple first-round picks for Max Crosby, I would pull the trigger on that. I mean, he's still in his prime. He's still an extremely good player. He has, however, run through a lot of injuries. I would be concerned about his long-term durability relative to other star edge rushers, just because he's fought through so much already. That would be my only concern. Plus, unless Mendoza is amazing right away, you're probably a couple of years away, at which point you're now talking about, well, the next time we're a useful team, Max Crosby is probably in his at 30 and above. then you're talking about, does he now need a long-term extension again? Like, it's just the timing isn't syncing up between Max Crosby and when the rest of the team is supposed to be good. So if somebody's willing to throw me multiple first-round picks, I think I would pull the trigger. If they're not, like if the cap on what the value is like, here's a first, the end, I don't know if I'm trading him away for that. It's just, I'd rather have the good player.
Yeah, my initial leaning is just blow it up, restart. Crosby is such a good player, though, and you don't want to have.
It's also
nobody.
Yeah, and there's something to. I mean, he is a tone setter, a culture type of leader,
absolutely,
a veteran leader within the building. Like, there's a lot of value to having Max Crosby around, above and beyond what he does on the field, which is also extremely good. Like, at some point, you got to have somebody like that in the building. Otherwise, Brady's busy during the season, right? He's often doing games. You can't have Brady around setting the tone.
He has got multiple jobs.
Again, unless Mendoza is going to be that guy from day one, which is pretty harsh to expect him to be.
So I know you're firing up the MDS. A lot of this work's going to happen. Look, the Raiders and the Titans, two teams that are picking high, that have a lot of money, that have really a full rebuild. Like, when you look at what they have to build around, there's not much. Left tackle Colton Miller got hurt last year, but he's a core piece. Brock Bowers is a core piece. I think Ashton Genty will be a core piece. I think Jackson Powers-Johnson is a core piece, even though they were kind of moving him around center and guard and maybe not fully trusting him last year, and it was just a disaster of an O-line situation. I don't think there's one on defense besides Max Crosby. And this is probably the third straight year where, like, man, what do they have on the defensive side of the ball? So you're talking about a handful of strong pieces to build around, so the needs are plentiful. I think you got to start on the offensive line, and we got to add something in free agency here.
Yeah. You definitely need at least one guard.
The report is they're going hard after Tyler Linderbaum as a start at center.
And that's fine.
If you do that and you have Miller at left tackle, DJ Glaze is okay at right tackle. Like, if you had to roll in with Glaze at right tackle, that's fine. I'd still rather upgrade. We were talking about Membu last year rather than Genty, and I don't know. In hindsight, maybe that would have been the right play.
Certainly would have been
but you're
better.
saying guard as well. I mean, if you have JPJ and Linderbaum and Colton Miller like that, you're moving in the right direction.
If they came out of free agency having added Linderbaum and another guard, I think that would be exceptional work from them.
Dylan Parham's a free agent. He's been okay. He looks better with better pieces around him.
Yes.
If he's not the best offensive lineman or second best offensive lineman on the team, then your offensive line's in better shape.
They're also a team that could add, they could go bring in a couple of options, veteran options, that maybe between one of them emerges as your guy. So, like, I like Tevin Jenkins as a player, but he's been very injured. Like, maybe you bring Tevin Jenkins and somebody else in, maybe somebody towards the end of their career, like a Kevin Zeitler or whatever. Like, and then you're like, well, if Tevin Jenkins stays healthy, maybe he wins a spot. If he doesn't, maybe the other veteran wins a spot. But I think this is a team, like, they can't have what happened last year happen again, because now you've got the number one overall pick quarterback that it's affecting.
And by the way, when Colton Miller went down, it was rough. It's not like they were completely devoid of talent. It's not like they rolled out there. Again, Colton Miller's good. Parham is a good NFL starter, average to slightly above average. JPJ is good, and I think he's going to be good. Like, 3 out of 5 were decent, and Glaze isn't the worst tackle in the world. He's maybe slightly below average.
It's worrying.
It was the scheme. It was maybe Carroll's kids coaching. I mean, there was a lot of issues last year beyond just the talent. So I don't think it's not like a complete overhaul talent-wise, but obviously they need to upgrade.
Yeah, that is a big variable, how much this thing gets better immediately just by changing the coaching. I mean, as you said, Pete
Kubiak, his system, we've seen those turnarounds pretty quickly with the Shanahan-McVay scheme.
Pete Carroll's kid was coaching the offensive line, and no matter how bad it got, there was never any threat that would change. That's not a great sign. Also, Chip Kelly had the lowest grade of any offensive coordinator in the the NFLPA poll thing that they did. Was it an F? It was the lowest grade anyway.
Yeah, I think it was.
So again, like, coaching across the board wasn't going great for the Raiders last season. Now, all those coaches have changed. So, there's a pretty good chance it gets a lot better just having changed the coaching that everybody was hating. And who knows how much of an effect that can have. I will say, I mean, look, again, it's a new regime, so the whole potentially an entirety clean slate for everybody. It isn't a great sign the way they were sort of treating Jackson Powers-Johnson, though, in terms of, I mean, he's obviously better than the guys around him, and yet we don't trust him at center. We don't really trust him starting. Like, you know, that's not a ringing endorsement of a guy,
Not
but maybe
sure what was happening there.
Maybe he was just on the bad end of the politics that was happening.
So, O-line needs to be addressed. Pass catcher needs to be addressed. Didn't mind Jack Besh as a second rounder last year. Didn't have a great rookie season, so he's a complimentary piece. Trey Tucker with a breakout year, Mr. Touchdown Maker, Trey Tucker.
Oh, the player that I would go after on the offensive line as well. So Linderbaum, obviously, and then I would be trying to sign Brady Christensen if you can get him.
Oh, I like that.
From the Carolina Panthers.
From
remember,
the Panthers. Play left guard.
Yeah, having been, like, remember they brought him in initially, and it's like you're going to play left tackle, and he was completely in over his head at left tackle. But when they kicked him into guard, that was still rough initially, but he started to really improve at guard in the last season before he got hurt. And then the year before that, he was playing some center as well. As an interior option, I think Brady Christensen would be pretty interesting.
What about as far as receiver goes? Second, obviously, go Mendoza in the first round. Second round, you usually have those potential receivers on the turn.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if I bring up Chris Bell for the teams that are thinking more long-term, either have multiple picks or can deal with an injured player that goes a little bit lower than expected.
I feel like I want to recuse myself from Chris Bell analysis this offseason. It's just like it's not going to be impartial. Like he's the guy. He's those receivers that I love irrationally, even though I know they don't work out. I just want to be like,
he could work out.
I like Chris Bell more than I should.
You think he's like Jonathan Mingo? Is he a
Well, that's
Mingo
the thing. So
you?
somebody.
What is that type? He's just big and fast?
Somebody had the list of receivers, and it's like the problem is he's either Jonathan Mingo or I forget who the guy was at the other end of the spectrum, but it's like really good. Like I hate that those are the two options.
He looks like A.J. Brown, size-wise.
The mock I just threw in for the Raiders, pretty easy because number one overall is Fernando Mendoza. In the second round, they got Zion Young at Missouri, and then in the third round, we got Malachi Fields out of Notre Dame. Which is fine because Malachi was on Up and Adams, Kay Adams' show, explaining that the problem with the 4.61 was on a start, his shin was pointing towards the sky.
Ooh,
right?
Yeah.
And that projects his body
starting
up.
Shin angle, yeah.
That's the body's up instead of out. And so is
right.
the 4.6.
And he's not going to be, luckily, receivers don't use 3-point stances anymore.
Right.
We've sunset that.
So once he sorts the shin angle, shin angle forward, not up, then he's a 4.5 guy.
4.59 is a big difference between
everything.
that and 4.61. Glad we got that rectified. So that was just the offensive side of the ball. As I said, like the defensive side of the ball
is a wreck.
They've got a handful of starters back, and one of them is Max Crosby, and he might not be back anyway. So last year it felt like they need a lot of defensive playmakers. Didn't necessarily address it. Again, he can't address everything in an offseason. And where do we go here? Everywhere. They have a lot of money to spend. And I think they could do one of those. Remember the Commanders a couple years ago? Mentioned a lot on yesterday's show. Hey, Bobby Wagner comes in for a year or two. And Frankie Louvu comes in. And they had a couple. Dorrance Armstrong. Like they got a lot of second wave type of free agents. When you stitched it all together, it was a veteran laden group, and there's not a lot, and you have to combine that with the high volume drafting here. So I think getting a combination of youth and just a whole bunch of starters in free agency that won't break the bank. I say that like there's not crazy money going to get thrown around,
right?
But I think that
and the Raiders have crazy money to throw
is the way they go. So they might have to overpay for a couple of these starters too.
I would almost treat this the way I kind of advocated this for the Panthers when they got Bryce Young as well. I would basically spend an entire offseason focusing almost exclusively on the offensive side of the ball. Like if you've got money to spend, go get Linderbaum. Be the team that's willing to go to the financial place that other people won't for Linderbaum. Completely guarantee one spot on that offensive line is set. Go get another guard, whether it's Christensen, whether it's Tevin Jenkins, other guy. Go solidify one other guard spot as well. If you want to start throwing money around at tackle, maybe you could go and get Braden Smith, right, from Indianapolis, who's been a good starter for years now. Like
32 and a quarter arms.
whatever. That would guarantee one of your tackle spots, right? So be the team that's willing to overspend this free agency to just guarantee, like do what the Bears did.
That's
right?
generally your nature, is to say, if I have the rookie or second-year quarterback, I'm spending on the offense.
Well, I think you can.
Defense doesn't matter.
Yeah, because I don't think it does relative to the only thing that matters now for the Raiders is not screwing up Mendoza, right? And anything you can do to ensure that that happens is good. Now, I don't know that it's as one-to-one as bad situation equals bust quarterback, but because for Drake May surviving what he survived year one was really impressive. Even last season, Cam Ward developing visibly in spite of what was around him was pretty impressive. That being said, I do think that it's not good to have a quarterback surrounded by garbage for his first year or two, right? I think the more you can alleviate that, the better the chance of him actually working out is. So you're about to give the keys of this thing to Fernando Mendoza, who, as much as he's a good prospect, is not, slam dunk, number one overall every single year, best prospect we've seen in generations or whatever. He's going to need some help. And this is not an offense that had a lot of help last season. So fix it. Fix the offense. You've got money to spend. You've got some draft picks. Fix the offensive line. Try and find maybe an upgrade or two at receiver. And then the defense can wait. I'm not saying don't touch it at all. You're going to need to bring in some players, but do the Nick Caserio thing. Just start bringing in a bunch of 1 year, $4 million players just to field a defense, and then you can deal with that later.
If we were going to go a little bit cheaper on defense, that second, the third, number 3 edge rush types that I've mentioned a lot on yesterday's show, the Arnold Ebiketis of the world, I think they would make sense. Like Ebiketie, I like a lot as a potential future piece. You don't want him as the number 2 rusher, but if he's a 3, he's in pretty good shape. They need help at linebacker, so this plethora of available linebackers. What a group they had last year. Jamal Adams and Devin White and Landon Roberts all out there at the same time. Just a fascinating group of players. Eric Stokes did some good things last year at corner. Could try to bring him back. I like Monteric Brown as a potential buy low. Not a buy low, but a cornerback from Jacksonville who had a sneaky good couple seasons over there. I think those are the types of players you're looking at defensively if you're the Raiders. If we go heavy offense, as you've suggested. Mendoza, number 1. Let's finish with this. What would it take to come off that pick? If you had a franchise redefining amount of draft capital, could you have the patience to say, would you rather be in the Jets position?
I was going to say, okay, the Jets are the only team I could even see that could offer.
And there was at least one. There's a lot of rumblings. There was at least one rumble that the Jets could be interested in the trade up for Mendoza. Okay, so would you rather be picking Mendoza 1 or have 3 first-rounders next year like the Jets do? Which position would you rather be in?
Well, okay, so what?
I might be in mystery. I mean, they're all mystery boxes, but man, I'm tempted.
What would the Jets have to give you to come off this pick, right? They've obviously got number 2, so it's the least you need to drop in order to give it up. You're only dropping 1 spot.
Yeah, you drop a spot and you probably gain an extra 1.
They're going to give you up number 16 this year, or are you looking for next year's?
I'm thinking more next year. So maybe you get...
Because theoretically those are discounted, but that you can't get the extra... you can't get 2 and both their next year's first-rounders. 2 of next year's first-rounders.
Could
you?
If they knew they were getting the quarterback, if the Jets love Mendoza,
yeah,
and if they knew, would they give? And because that's why they have all that draft capital.
So would you do it for number 2 overall and 2 first-round picks next year? It's 3,
and the 2 first-round picks next year would be probably the Colts and the Cowboys. The Jets wouldn't give up their own.
Right.
I would say I would want the Jets pick next year, and then one of the other teams.
Okay. And whatever. At the moment, the offer is 3 first-rounders, including the number 2 overall pick this time for Mendoza.
I think I would do that.
You think you'd take that deal?
I would make the bet that next year's class there'll be somebody that I love coming out of there, whether it's Arch, whoever it is.
Dude, well, I haven't checked, but Walt must be losing his mind right now.
Maybe. I think I would do it today. Today I would. I didn't know Walt was all in on Mendoza. He buys into the LinkedIn. Walt is definitely on LinkedIn.
3 first-round picks. I think I just take the QB.
Yeah. Because, again, both sides of it, right? Like, the Bears are where they are right now in a better situation because of the trade that they made for Bryce Young.
Yeah.
And is Bryce Young completely
the
different
Bears have
size?
done,
But is Bryce Young a similar level of prospect as Mendoza?
The Bears have done.
And then they made this bet, and then boom, they have Caleb Williams the next year.
Right. The Bears have benefited from both sides of this deal. Like, they didn't move off the guy for Caleb Williams, but they did move off to go get.
Yeah, they moved off for
get
Bryce Young, who's he was a good number 1 overall prospect,
Right.
but not as good as what was available the following year, and you knew what was available.
They've seen both
year.
sides of this play out.
Yes.
The take the deal and not take the deal.
There's still no slam dunk next year, so maybe I don't do it. I
Right.
don't know.
But
It
then
has to be in an
wasn't.
hour.
Yeah.
Could change. We fix the Raiders.
Sure. Who would you? So, okay, let's play this out for the moment. Let's say you take the 3 first-round picks. What would you do at quarterback? You've just taken 3 first-rounders, including number 2 overall.
You bridge it.
For Mendoza. You do it now, so everyone knows that before free agency, right? What's your solution at quarterback for a year? Jimmy G. Is that you're seriously? Jimmy G takes you to week 6. What are you doing from week 6 to week 18?
Bridge. Like, you're going to – I care about 2027 and 28 if I'm the Raiders. I am in the best division in football.
You've still got Geno.
Yeah, we're trading Geno, by the
Wait,
way.
you're trading him. Who's picking up anything with Geno?
The Vikings.
The Vikings.
Stop. The smoke around the Vikings and Geno Smith is thick.
Stop it.
Thick smoke around that.
You could bring in Kyler in Vegas. Is that not perfect?
He'd stay out of trouble. Stay in his room, video games.
Would he?
Listen, we got to wrap it up. But if we did that, you're sacrificing this year. You're in the best division of football. You're with the Chiefs, Chargers, and Broncos. You say we're 2 years away at best, and you play it as such.
I'm only half joking about that, by the way. Kyler Murray for basically free for a year. If you're doing that, it's a throwaway. It's not like he's potentially a half decent quarterback.
He could hurt our draft stock for next year, though.
I mean, yeah.
If I had the Raiders,
does Brady care about that? Brady doesn't. Like, Brady's not going to accept institutional losing.
Listen, I know there's a lot of what ifs. All right, we're going off the rails for a second here for the Raiders. When the Texans and Cardinals made their trade, and we were like, wow, how risky for the Texans to trade Will Anderson, because next year they could suck and give up a top 10 pick. And the Cardinals, we were looking at the Cardinals potentially getting Marvin Harrison Jr., who they got, but also someone else, right? They could have had 2 elite players, and it didn't work out that way. But let's just pretend. If the Raiders had their pick and the Jets pick next year, and they go in and they've got 2 top 10 picks.
2 Jets picks next year.
And 2 Jets, but like one of them's the Colts and one of them's the Cowboys, right? But I'm saying they have the Jets specific pick and the Raiders specific pick next year. You are legitimately talking about maybe 2 top 10 picks.
Right.
And whichever QB emerges, is it Archie, whoever it is, QB emerges, Jeremiah Smith is out there. They have elite players in this draft next year. Way more expected elite blue chip players. If you have 2 top 10s next year, that's worth way more than 2 top 10s this year. That is the bet that you're making. Doesn't always work out that way, but that's what you're hoping for. And that is a legitimate conversation to have if you're the Raiders. What the QB that emerges is available. Jeremiah Smith pairing with him, like those are low probability, but it's out there. It's in the range of outcomes. It's a punt. All right. Just saying. The Raiders. Yeah, the AFC West is loaded. Chiefs, Chargers, and Broncos are all really good.
Well,
the Chiefs will be good.
Well.
Okay. Anyway, I'm done with the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
Los Angeles Chargers. What are we going to do? They got MVP caliber quarterback Justin Herbert. Mm-hmm. We got offensive line in shambles, but the tackles are coming back, so we need 3 interior offensive linemen coming off of back-to-back playoff appearances and wild card losses. What are we doing for Herbert's Chargers?
And we got a lot of money to play with.
Yes, we do.
Sneakily, I mean, the Raiders make a ton of sense to go hard after Linderbaum. So do the Chargers.
Only 5 draft picks at the moment with, I'm not sure where they are in the comp pick race, but low draft capital here for the Chargers.
But at least a pick in each of the first 4 rounds.
Yes.
So they've got the high value ones. But yeah, the Chargers have the kind of money to rival the Raiders for Linderbaum if they want to really go after that interior offensive line. Same thing as the Raiders, really. Like, you need, maybe even more so, they literally need to overhaul the 3 interior players. You can probably assume that the 2 tackles are coming back and are really good. Joe Alt should be a guarantee. So, Slater at left tackle, maybe more of a question mark because of the nature of his injury, but theoretically your tackles are fine. In fact, better than fine. They're good. The interior, though, is a total disaster. Like I don't think you have an interior player you can start at the moment. So you need three of them.
Bradley Bozeman retiring at center. Mekhi Becton, just before we started recording, officially getting released. And Zion Johnson, a free agent at left guard. He had been making some progress, but still not great as a former first-rounder.
No.
So this looks like, I would say, what either the Vikings or Bears did last offseason. That's what needs to happen. The Bears last year traded for Joe Thuney, signed Drew Dahlman, who's freshly retired, and picked up the right guard from the Rams, Jonah Jackson, Lions and Rams. Before you even get to the draft, 3 moves. Who's the other team I mentioned that did this? Vikings. Will Fries, Ryan Kelly at center and right guard. And then they went into the draft, filled the Donovan Jackson left guard need. That's what it needs to look like for the Chargers.
They literally need
early in Herbert's
three new
career,
starters.
they did the same thing, right? O-line was terrible, and then they went and attacked it and built it back up. So
that's what I'm saying. When you need 3, I mean, again, like the Bears, they might do this in a different way in terms of maybe they'll find a trade for somebody for a guaranteed player. Now, they don't have, as you said, they only have 5 draft picks, so you got to be careful trying to grab another starter with a trade somewhere. But one of the reasons you do something like that is because, A, you have the money to spend, like Chicago did, like the Chargers do. B, the certainty, right? There might be a team out there, a cut candidate, someone looking to get cheaper on the offensive line. They don't want to throw the investment they need to. They don't want to extend the guy, and they're willing to offload him for a mid-round pick. That 4th-round pick we were talking about, right? Maybe suddenly there's a good offensive lineman that's available because his contract is higher than somebody wants to go, and suddenly one of your starters is available for that 4th-round pick. Now you have 4 draft picks going into the draft. That doesn't feel good, but if one of them was to bring in a starter who's a guaranteed good player next year, that's fine. So if you were able to do that, I'm trying to think of who would be available at that spot or to make that work. But if you traded for some starter with the 4th-round pick, if you threw all the money at Linderbaum to be your center, that's 2 out of your 3 already fixed before you've done much at all. Now you can go throw some money at one of the guards, whether it's Christensen, David Edwards may get paid this year.
Oh, you're going all in and thinking long-term as well with this. If you're going Linderbaum and in Edwards, 2 long-term starters.
Right, they're not old.
So that's similar to what, again, Sean Payton did with the Broncos, where they said Ben Powers long-term, Mike McGlinchey long-term. They weren't just one-year rentals. Because I was looking a little bit the other way. Like, if they don't get Linderbaum, Connor McGovern might be done in Buffalo to play center.
Yep.
Tyler Biotish can still play. Got released by the Commanders. Ethan Pocic coming off of injury. Like, you start to get a little bit weaker, but I think McGovern or Biotish is perfectly fine as a starter. I heard someone say, I didn't know this, Kevin Zeitler, he's I would sign every year, doesn't want to play on the West Coast. I think the Chargers were in on him last year.
Play on the West Coast?
Somebody said in the chat, there's no way they would lie to me. So if that's true, that's unfortunate. But Zeitler, I assumed he wanted to play for a contender. He goes and plays with the Titans last year. He's still good at right guard. If he wants to play for us with the Chargers, I'd take him for the 1 year to just, maybe go long-term at center and left guard, and then Zeitler for the
really turning down a playoff caliber team with an MVP caliber quarterback on the West Coast? Because I don't like the West Coast.
If he says, hey, I want to play with me. I want to play with a QB that has at least 1 MVP vote, and then, maybe that's what puts it over the top here.
It's not that many around.
For the chart, not that many at all.
Certainly not last year.
So, I think there are options of free agency, and that's step number 1. This might be like day 1 of free agency. The Chargers try to solve this thing. You talking about the trade for a player, like that Joe Thuney deal looks so good.
Yeah.
For the Bears. I don't know if that is even available.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Thuney's a high-end
I'm trying to think
guard.
of who that would be this year around. And the point is, it's not like it was a crazy move by Kansas City either. Like, it was literally, it's a financial decision, right? Yeah. They decided we can't pay both Thuney and Trey Smith. Trey Smith is younger. We're going to take Thuney's money, we're going to give it to Trey Smith, and we're going to cash in with a draft pick, right? It makes sense from Kansas City's point of view. But the point is, that's where the flexibility of having both draft picks and money for a team that needs an offensive line comes in, right? You can be the team that goes, oh, hell yeah, we'll take that, right? We're not in the same position you are.
Yeah.
We want Joe Thuney.
So anyway, I think even without trading a draft pick, though, Sam, they have the money and there's enough players out there that I think they can solve it without, whether they go the high-end route of Linderbaum. By the way, if they had a Linderbaum and Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, they might not be a better top 3 offensive linemen, and then, you just get good enough at guard, and I think you're in a really good spot, both run game and pass game wise, with all those players. Beyond that, I think we could talk. Well, let's stay on the offensive side of the ball. Keenan Allen is a free agent. He had another year as a dependable slot type receiver. Bit of a dip from Ladd McConkey in his production, but on paper he's still good. Quentin Johnston took a step forward as he heads into the maybe the tail end of his run here with the Chargers. Aranda Gadsden looked good as a rookie tight end option. Still need a little bit more here, though, from a pass catcher perspective.
Yeah, and I don't know what you do with that group because
you might depend on last year's draft picks, Trey Harris and Kendra Lambert-Smith.
McConkey took a step backwards, I think, relative to what expectations were for him. Quentin Johnson took a step forwards, but he was coming from such a low point that it's still not great. Keenan Allen, reaching the end of his career. But, yeah, you've got Trey Harris, Kendrick Lambert-Smith. They're the team that's lacking the number one. Like, they're the team that's in need of the upgrade that the Bengals had a few years ago where they put Jamar Chase on the roster. Suddenly everybody looks twice as good as they were because you've got Jamar Chase, right? That's the Chargers receiving corps. That group might suddenly look amazing if you found
Mike Evans.
Right. If you found your version of Jamar Chase.
Alec Pierce. Everybody's signing Alec Pierce. Everybody's signing Mike Evans.
I don't know if he's achieving that for you.
Juwan Jennings. Mention him with every team. Rashid Shaheed.
Point being, I don't think that guy exists in the free agent market.
No, like the high-end one, besides like a year or two of Mike Evans, probably doesn't exist.
Right.
Rashid Shaheed as a speed option? Yeah. McConkey's got speed and quicks. Rashid as a
Shaheed,
stretch the field type.
Right. Shaheed probably brings you what you want in consistency in Quentin Johnson.
Yeah.
Like you could just, Rashid, if you signed Shaheed to like a long-term-ish deal, you could then go away from Quentin Johnson.
And then do they need more of a traditional wide tight end? So I bring up Dallas Goedert for a lot of teams because there's still, like, he could still block and catch the ball. There's, of all those top tight ends, David Njoku's okay. Isaiah Likely's more of a move tight end. Chika Okonkwo, more of a move tight end. Tyler Higbee maybe staying in LA. Like, I'd rather have Gadsden was good, but he's more of like a fringe wide receiver type that played a little bit of receiver in college. I think a more dependable tight end makes a lot of sense here as well, either here or in the draft.
Yeah,
free agency or in the draft. Mm-hmm. In the draft, a lot of people are giving them a guard.
Yep,
but I would rather
Benga Ioane in the first round is going to be a very common pick for them.
Yeah, I would rather solve that. If you're a Chargers fan, you would rather the next time you run up a mock draft simulator feel like, oh man, I don't need to squeeze a guard pick in here.
Sure.
Now I can get because they have questions on the defensive side of the ball. They need pass rushers. They always need more interior disruptors, despite getting a little bit better there last year with Tier Tard and Jamari Caldwell. Like, they still need defensive line help, figure out what they do with Khalil Mack. So you'd rather solve this offensive line issue the way we are, which is in free agency.
Sure. I mean, obviously not needing it is better than needing it. But I think there's a pretty good chance there will be options for them in the first couple of rounds if they do fix 2 of the 3 spots and then go into the draft with, okay, if we could get a starter here in the first couple of rounds, that would be great. They're also, I think this year more than some other years, I think there will be second round interior offensive linemen that you would feel good about starting. That's not always the case. Sometimes it's like if we don't get one in the first round, we're not getting a starter. I think this year is different where you could actually, you don't have to force it in the first round. So if, Ioane's gone, if Fano is gone, like if all the guys that you're comfortable with starting from day one in the first round are gone, I think you can probably still find one in the second round. Now, again, it's, do you want to risk that? But I think they could be in okay shape relying on fixing 2 spots in free agency, trades, whatever, and then kind of gambling that you can fix the third one in the draft.
So on the defensive side of the ball, last year at this time, they had the same question. We need a starting edge rusher opposite Tuli Peloto. Same thing this year. Last year, they got Khalil Mack for 1 year, $18 million. And given where the edge rush market was going, I loved that deal. at the time. Matt can still play, not as well as he did, 5-10 years ago, but can still play. Got him for $18 million while that position's getting up into the 40s. Don't know if he'll do the hometown, not even hometown, but, re-sign discount again. If he does, I'd be fine with that. But are they players in the big-time edge rush market when it comes to Trey Hendrickson or a Jalen Phillips? And then they traded for Odafe Oweh.
Yeah.
If he walks, he signs a big deal somewhere else. They're in the market for a comp pick. Could get canceled out depending on what they do if they go get a Hendrickson. But I wonder how much they want to play that game. Joe Ortiz, the general manager, comes from the Ravens, and they are the number one team when it comes to accumulating comp picks. So I'm not sure how much they want to break the bank in free agency, but again, they have the money.
I mean, at some point they're going to have to. It's great theoretically to never dabble in free agency and be a draft and develop team, but you don't have the draft picks to do that, and you have acute needs that crippled the team last year. This is like when, last year when we were saying the last 2 years really with John Schneider in Seattle, it's great having principles and these are the things we want to do and we don't believe the value is this and blah, 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 and this is the way we want to run things. But at some point you got to be like, look, need is matching up with the other thing, right? I don't like taking interior offensive line in the first round. I don't believe the value is there. I think you get those guys later on, right? But at some point, Gray Zabel is sitting there and your offensive line is still a mess. Just take Gray Zabel. Don't overthink it. Make the obvious move because it's obvious for a reason. The Chargers are in this spot where I'm sure they would love to draft and develop and, play the comp pick game and, but you need 3 interior offensive linemen. You're not going to get them all in the draft this year. So you're going to have to spend some money and make it happen that way. Now, again, maybe that's another reason to explore the trade market if you can find somebody that's available. Maybe Green Bay would flip one of their players for a draft pick, whatever. You do that, you don't mess with the comp pick formula. So if they really want to play that game, maybe they can try and get creative and trade rather than free agency, but you're not going to find 3 interior starters this year in the draft, right? So you're going to have to explore the veteran marketplace, which is going to impact your comp pick formula. There's no way around that.
One last thing just to mention, with Mike McDaniel taking over on offense, if they can get Linderbaum, an incredible zone blocking move tight end, an offensive weapon at tight end, by the way, that would be a great fit. Just like Aaron Brewer, offensive weapon for McDaniel. But I wonder how much he built the Dolphins off of speed. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Mm-hmm. The Chargers were one of the slowest teams in the NFL a couple years ago. It's gotten better, but I do wonder how much, you go back to the Rashid Shaheed thing, Quentin Johnston can move, McConkey's really fast. How much do they just try to attack with speed the same way the Dolphins did? Just something else to keep an eye on. Would they get Tyquan Thornton in there, get some more of those Jalen Naylor, guys that we have shown the ability to get behind the defense, create big plays, and then you put them with McDaniel and you build in that explosive offense.
The one play, okay, so let's do this for real, right? I want to throw all the money in the world at Tyler Linderbaum, make that happen, right?
Okay.
Trade. Elton Jenkins is listed as a very common cut candidate for Green Bay. I will flip Green Bay a 4th-round draft pick that I have for Elton Jenkins right now.
All right.
That's 2 spots fixed.
All right. I'm listening.
So I did a mock draft. In the first round, I resisted Venga Ioane because you're like, no,
don't need him.
Don't need it. I got Peter Woods in the first round.
Love it.
In the second round, I got Chase Besantis, the Texas A&M interior offensive lineman.
So we're getting younger.
There's my
we
third.
Got veterans.
There's my third starter. And then I'm going to need help with this guy's name. 3rd round, Arizona DB Traden Stukes. Within the 3rd round.
Had a great combine.
Yes. So there we go. We've overhauled the interior offensive line. 3 new starters. Our tackles are coming back.
And then I throw all the money at Trey Hendrickson.
You throw all the remaining money at Trey Hendrickson.
Yes.
Sure. Okay.
There we go.
Fixed.
Chargers.
And then we just hope the receiving core gets better than it was last year.
Just hope that they get
Which,
better.
by the way, it should. I mean, there's a degree to which the receiving core didn't have a chance the same way that Justin Herbert didn't have a chance, with no offensive line and no run game, which also, by the way, should be getting better. Kamani Vidal, however we want to say this guy's name that changes every week. I mean, he was their lead running back for most of the season.
Marion Hampton as a 1-2 punch.
Marion Hampton's coming back. He was good. The offensive line we just completely fixed and overhauled. Justin Herbert's an MVP caliber quarterback. That should help the receiving core without doing anything to it.
Year 3 of Jim Harbaugh and they've had a strong floor, baseline of success here. This is the offseason to get their MVP candidate and everything he needs to take the next step.
And the chemistry between Jim and Mike McDaniel is going to be
flawless,
incredible.
If we could get
Mike's already improving
Joey
his stress
Molinaro,
sense.
I would watch an entire season of Jim Harbaugh and Mike McDaniel just talking and hanging out. If he came up with that as a bit, I'd watch all of it. All of it.
Okay.
All right. Charges fixed?
Yeah.
Before we got to get to the NFC West, but first, ever wanted to go to the NBA Finals? Well, now's your chance, courtesy of FanDuel. All you have to do is use your profit boost on an NBA future, and you'll be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. NBA futures let you lock in your pick for who you think will go all the way, whether it's a team to win the championship or a conference title. Visit FanDuel.com/33rd to get started. Play your game with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. No purchase necessary. Limit one entry for Profit Boost token. Opt-in required. Must apply Profit Boost token on select markets. Restrictions apply. See full terms, including methods of entry at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Also want to tell you about our friends over at Root Insurance. Root Insurance believes that good drivers deserve better rates, so they've created a new kind of car insurance that rewards good drivers in an easy-to-use app. Traditional car insurance companies focus on demographics like age, zip code, occupation, and credit score to price your coverage, but when Root offers a rate, your behavior behind the wheel gets more weight than any other single factor. They don't use occupation or education level to negatively affect your rate. While you drive, Root gathers and analyzes data from your smartphone sensors, and after a few weeks, you get a car insurance quote based primarily on your driving. Save up to 44% off your initial Root quote after you take the test drive. If you need a tow truck, jump start, or lock your keys in the car, the Root will help cover the help you need to get back on the road when you opt into roadside assistance. The Root app makes it easy to edit your coverage, update your policy, or file a claim in just 3 minutes. You get started today at Root.com. All right, man, we're halfway through today. Running a little bit later than yesterday. I think that tends to happen. NFC West, starting with the Arizona Cardinals. The story just came out yesterday. Kyler Murray will officially be released at the start of the league year. He will be free to sign anywhere for a minimum wage, too. Arizona picks up his contract. So Kyler Murray immediately becomes, I would say, one of the biggest bargains in the NFL for a team picking him up. So there's no trade. No one has to take on his current contract. Arizona saying, we'll just cut ties. We're going to move on. So for teams that really need a quarterback, the Dolphins, the Jets, if the Raiders wanted to play that, I think they're taking Mendoza anyway. But
the Vikings,
teams that need a quarterback right now, the Browns,
it's such a different
pick up Kyler on the cheap.
It's such a different prospect than when you were sort of talking about it as, well, if you have to trade for him and pick up his contract, like who really wants to opt into building this custom offense around Kyler Murray, given these, but for free? Essentially, like for the veteran minimum, like there's no downside, right? You take on an incredibly talented playmaker, albeit a flawed quarterback potentially. But yeah, you got to do a little bit of legwork in terms of building an offense around him, but it's not costing you anything. It's basically free.
We said this a couple of years ago. The Steelers built their quarterback room with Russell Wilson post-release and Justin Fields.
It was a great theory.
For almost nothing.
Didn't work.
It was worth a shot because, again, what are the alternatives?
Correct.
Probably nothing. And the shot was, okay, the cheapest quarterbacks are still making like $25, $30 million. You're talking minimum wage. And if you could redeploy all your other resources to the rest of the roster, that's where it's really intriguing when it comes to Kyler Murray. So the Steelers tried it. They had Russ, they had Fields, the cheapest quarterback room in the NFL. Still, they win 9 games, whatever they did that year, that's what they do. But this would be, whether it's the Jets or whoever needs a quarterback right now, Kyler Murray for almost nothing, and then you can redeploy everything else to the rest of the roster. It's an intriguing, option here with Kyler hitting the market.
100%. Like it's a very different prospect, I think, to when you had to factor in his contract and a trade to bring him in at all. Now it's like you're basically getting. It's literally like, can you trust yourself? Can you back yourself to build the offense that makes Kyler Murray work if I give you Kyler Murray for free? That's
Right.
effectively the debate that teams are having. So Kevin O'Connell, right? Kevin O'Connell is like, I could bring in a variety of different quarterbacks to challenge 9. Do I want the safety net of just like, this guy is just an established okay quarterback, and what can I make out of that, right? Well, how good can I make an okay quarterback? Or do you want the guy that's incredibly talented, but you're going to need to like figure out how it actually works and make him into the elite version of himself in Kyler Murray for free, for the veteran minimum, which is basically free. It's like $1 million or whatever, right? I think that's an intriguing option for anybody that needs a quarterback.
I would also say, Anthony Richardson, trade candidate, Russ a couple years ago, like Russ felt a little broken by the time he hit the Steelers. And Kyler's not broken, right? I think he just...
No. I mean, he's certainly younger. With Russ, I think they were both kind of broken, but with Russ, it was like you're broken and kind of old, and that tends to be... Now you're thinking, is it a permanent break? Kyler Murray, I think, is kind of broken, but he's at least young enough there. Like we could...
Russ had hit this point
of... it back together again.
Russ had hit this point where I think he lost a step, wasn't as mobile. Half of his game is working outside of structure, and then it just didn't work. And he had his own limitations within structure. So Kyler has his own limitations with the height, thrown over the middle. Like, he's got his own limitations, but he's still an incredible athlete. You can offset some of what he's missing with what he can do outside of structure. And he's had high-end play before. We're just, probably 4 years removed from that. So he, again, becomes one of the biggest bargains in the NFL. Then the question is, if you are the Jets or you are the Dolphins, who are facing, I would say, Jets are a total rebuild. The Dolphins are rebuilding probably 2/3 of their roster. Do you want actually a high-end bridge quarterback right now, or do you want to be bad for a year? Right? Not that you can't be bad with Kyler. It's harder, right? It's harder than doing that versus, say, the Jimmy Garoppolo type of option, which is basically saying Jimmy G on a bad roster, like, hey, we know we're picking top 5 next year. If you grab a Kyler Murray for a year, you might be picking 13th or 14th instead, and now you're in this, middle world of future-proofing quarterback.
Yeah, he's also, though, like his range of outcomes is so much broader than a standard bridge quarterback. Now, we're saying that after Darnold is only a couple of years removed from being a bridge quarterback, and then he went and won 14 games back-to-back years for different teams and suddenly looks like a top 10 quarterback. Like, that's a pretty high range of outcomes from garbage to that. But, like, Kyler Murray, I think, you're talking about a 28-year-old former number 1 overall quarterback with incredible athletic talent, a rocket arm, there's the ceiling for Kyler Murray, I still think, is very high. And, yeah, he maybe looked physically a bit diminished as well, but he's also come back off some pretty significant knee injuries. I feel like this version of Kyler Murray is going to be pretty close to 100% physically again. The question just becomes, he's got his own limitations within the structure of a normal offense. Is there an offense out there that can turn Kyler Murray into the Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber quarterback that he has the talent to be? Or are his limitations within structure terminal for that? Like, does that mean he's permanently only going to be inconsistent? Maybe one game he can string it all together and you get like just a almost flawless performance where he looks as good as any quarterback in the NFL, but he's just not going to be able to bank that up for the next game and the next game and the next game. It's a gamble I'm perfectly willing to take if I'm anybody, because the chances are it shakes out to being an average quarterback, like your standard bridge, right? It's like, this is fine, it's not good, it's not bad. But there is a chance that you find your quarterback in Kyler Murray.
And then we get to what the Cardinals are actually going to do here. Talking Cardinals, and Kyler's out. Mike LaFleur in as head coach this year, and we know that Mike's brother Matt just worked with the biggest free agent right now, quarterback Malik Willis.
Yep.
Expected to maybe get $40 million plus per year off of a teeny tiny sample size. But the most recent sample size has been spectacular. We broke it down on our free agent episode and on others. Completely different look from Malik Willis, throwing the ball accurately, throwing the ball downfield. His running ability, which has always been there. He was taking care of the ball and creating big plays with Green Bay, averaging over 10 yards per attempt in his limited time over the last couple of years. Is this the play now for Arizona, opening the door for Malik Willis? Would you do this if you're the Cardinals?
I'd be, again, I'm at least finding out where the number is, right? If you're telling me the number's $40 million a year, I would hate to be the team.
Like if it's 30s, if it's 35, if
Yeah,
it's Darnold,
I think I'd do that.
Baker-ish.
I would want to structure the deal kind of the way the Seahawks structured the Darnold deal, which is like I would give him like a ton of money up front and make it effectively like a 1.5 year deal, right? And if it's a total disaster year one, it's not like it's fun to cut him at that point, but you could, and it's not the end of the world, right? But if it does work out, you've got a good quarterback for pretty cheap, and even if you have to re-up him in a year's time, it still worked out well. That's the deal I would want to give. You're telling me the deal is just like a regular quarterback contract at $40 million a year-ish? I wouldn't want to do that.
I always come back to what's the alternative. I mean, if they don't do that, they're in a cheaper bridge court. You get Kyler Murray for cheap now. You're in a cheaper bridge quarterback world, and you don't have the theoretical upside. You don't have the upside that Willis showed on the field, and honestly, the floor because of the running ability.
Yeah,
you could build a run game around him. So. I think it's Arizona and Miami, given the Green Bay ties, that are going to make a big push for Malik Willis this offseason.
I do really wonder, because people started off the offseason saying this is going to look like the Justin Fields contract, right, which is like $20 million a year with only $20 million guaranteed, I think, something like that.
And Willis showed more in parts of 4 games than Fields showed in 4 years.
Maybe, but it was also 4 games, right?
No, I get
But
it.
anyway, the point is that was like the starting
showed.
point, and now suddenly it's like we're talking $40 million a year. It's like this accelerated rapidly.
Joe Milton's 2 good games away from the same thing. He's got 1 great game.
Yeah, but then he had some rough games.
Some rough ones in there, too.
That's the problem. Like if he just sat on that one game, it was like, no, this is who I am. I'm not showing a damn thing until you start me again.
And then we're playing GM here, right? So Monty Austin-Fort is the general manager in Arizona. He's been there a few years. They hire Mike LaFleur. So now you have this uneven life cycle of the GM and the head coach and maybe some uneven goals. So if Mike LaFleur comes in and he would be patient and say, yeah, we'll figure it out next year. Whereas Monty's saying, well, this could be my last chance here. We got to make a move. So then you have that dynamic, I think, in Arizona.
Yeah, it is interesting. I personally, I've seen quite a lot in Malik Willis, albeit in this crazy small sample size, that I would absolutely want to roll the dice and bring him in as a starting quarterback and see how it goes. Now, that obviously changes depending on what the contract is, right? I'm more comfortable with that the lower the number that I can possibly get it for.
I think the market's going to get wild.
That's the thing.
The money's crazy.
If the market is now going to $40 million a year or whatever, there's a line somewhere around there that I'm willing to draw in the sand and walk away from it. It's kind of like the Vikings and Kirk Cousins, right? Like I'm comfortable below a number, but as soon as you go above the number, I'm going to let somebody else make that mistake. So if I'm the Cardinals, if the number begins with a 3, right, in terms of APY, and if most of that money is up front, and if I'm on the hook for, let's say, $45 million guaranteed total, I'm in. If the number is higher than that, I think I'm walking away and letting someone else make the call.
Wow, man. So how do we play out this scenario? Because I don't think you're.
You think it's going higher than that?
Yeah.
Then I'm walking away.
And you're one of the teams pushing it. I think it's the Cardinals and the Dolphins. Who am I missing here? I don't think the Vikings will be in that mix.
No, not for that money.
Vikings will go cheaper.
I don't think the Vikings are in for that money. I don't think the Browns are in for that money unless they get really creative with the contract.
Yeah, I think it's Dolphins and Cardinals.
Cardinals.
And the Cardinals are the more – they make more sense where the Dolphins have new coach and new GM. They can slow play it. Yeah, they have the Green Bay connections, but the Cardinals are the most desperate team given the
Cardinals,
dynamic
Dolphins.
of the roster.
Would the Jets be in the market just to try and get a veteran as opposed to, using all their picks on a quarterback at some point?
If the Jets believe that – and this is the fascinating thing. Like Malik Willis might not be better than Kyler Murray next year.
Sure.
Right? I mean, we don't know. They could just be moving money around just for another Kyler.
Steelers. I'm just looking at QB needed teams.
Steelers could be.
But again, are you going to be in?
There's not a lot of teams, but again, there's so much money on the cap. That's the other thing too. Like a number that starts in the 4
it's going up.
isn't what it used to be.
No, I know.
So it's not. I mean, that the 4 is the new 3s.
Honestly, the more relevant number to me is more the guaranteed money. It's like, what am I on the hook for if this goes south, right?
Yeah.
And that's why, like, if you're telling me that I would be on the hook for, let's say, a year and a half of decent quarterback money, I think that's a reasonable point. Because if it goes bad, you should be punished in some way, shape. You know what I mean? Like, financially, for getting it wrong, there should be some kind of financial penalty that you're willing to accept. You get 1 year, which is you're paying this guy this money, and come what may, either he's good or he's bad. He either justifies that money or he doesn't. And then if you have to cut bait after a year, it should probably cost you half a year's worth of that money as well, just as a financial penalty. So I think I'm okay with if the number is 1.5x guaranteed money in terms of APY, I'm okay with that. If the number starts going higher than that, and now you're talking 2 years worth of guaranteed money, well, then I don't want any part of it because there's too big a chance that he's not good.
We have to fix the entire Cardinals team. We spent a lot of time talking about the quarterbacks. Kyler was kind of non-Cardinals talk, but let's pretend we have Malik Willis. He's our starter.
Okay,
we're not rolling.
We've done it.
I mean, the other option is we just roll with Jacoby Brissett, and look, if you just rolled Jacoby out there for 1 year, knowing that next year we're going to try to draft somebody, we're not going to be great, but Jacoby's up and down enough that you can win 6 or 7 games.
It's kind of interesting, by the way, that they kind of ended the Kyler relationship, but like, given you're stuck paying him anyway, the idea that, and you don't have a quarterback, the idea that the new regime was not interested in just, well, let's just waste this year with Kyler Murray and see what happens. Like, they've already been like, nope.
I think part of it's because they're going to be all in on Malik Willis. So let's pretend we have Malik Willis as our quarterback, and we're making that move. The big need is at right tackle, Jonah Williams and his backup, Kelvin Beachum, both free agents. And then the defensive side of the ball. Look, we've said for a couple of years now, the Cardinals' talent is way better now than it was 2 or 3 years ago. They just really underperformed last year. So they feel like one of those bounce-back candidates. Maybe just getting the new staff in there is going to enhance things. So, last year they spent in free agency, they brought in Josh Sweat, made a big move on him. They've got Budda Baker at safety. They brought in Dalvin Tomlinson for a lot of money. He underwhelmed. So some of the big moves, Baker wasn't a move. I'm just reading off some of their top defensive talent. But the defense really underwhelmed last year. Where do we add talent? What are we doing? And then the question at receiver is going to be, hey, Marvin Harrison and the great Michael Wilson, who tore it up when Marvin was hurt. Like, a pretty good 1-2 punch with those guys and Trey McBride. So it's not like devoid of talent for a team that's picking number 3 overall.
No, particularly on offense. I mean, defense, more of a problem. Offense I think is in pretty good shape. I would throw quite a lot of money at Braden Smith. We've already mentioned him before.
I love that.
He's still only 29, I think.
Yeah.
He's not even 30 yet.
Last 2 years have taken a bit of a dip for him, but he's been a very dependable right tackle.
If that's the guy that's coming in to just like solidify an offensive line, I think you're in pretty good shape. I'd be kicking the tires on all the guards again just to see if there's a bargain. Like, Tevin Jenkins is my favorite low risk, high reward guy that if you can bring him in, if he stays healthy, I think he could upgrade a starting spot for them. If he doesn't, no risk, no foul. No harm, no foul, rather. I think they'd be in the interior offensive line market in the draft as well. But Braden Smith's that's the place I would throw the money at.
I love that. Then we would feel better about not having to force Francis Maui-Noah at 3 in the draft. Right. If you get Braden Smith at right tackle, then we're taking the best player. We want an impact player at 3.
Yes.
And that could be, I like Bain. It could be Bailey if he falls. It could be Bain. It could be, is that too rich for a Carnell Tate at 3 and adding Tate and Harrison and Michael Wilson and Trey McBride?
Any of the...
having a plethora of receivers. Maybe
I think
it
puts you in the spot of drafting any of whoever your favorite Reese, blue chip defensive player is, right? Reese, Styles, Bain, Bailey, whoever your guy is at that spot is the guy you take.
I like that. So you don't have to force it. Or if you do go Maui-Noah and you put him at guard and boom, Renner would love that.
Sure.
You fill your guard spot, but that's going to feel high for a guard at 3. So that's part of the question there. So I like the Braden Smith call by you. My optimism on the defensive side of the ball is drafted Walter Nolan. He was banged up, but looked really good when he was out there. Will Johnson, got him in the second round. You've got the injury concerns, but he had some splash plays. You have Josh Sweat. I still think they need more edge rush help. Zaven Collins still on the roster for now. We'll see. I love Zaven as a 3, but I'd rather have that high-end pass rusher, which is why at 3 overall, pass rusher makes a ton of sense for the Cardinals, especially if you fill that tackle spot early.
Yeah, it does.
So we get Braden Smith, best defensive player available at 3.
So my mock draft for them.
Yes.
David Bailey was the best defensive. He was the one. There was
if the Jets don't go Bailey, I love that.
Yeah. Top of the second round, 34 overall. I got Caleb Lomu, which projects out to tackle. We already got Braden Smith, but it's not total redundancy. It's a succession plan. It's an option. It's a insurance policy.
Lomu needs time,
and it's BPA, best player available.
You do that.
You just go there. And then third round, Zachariah Branch, the wide receiver from Georgia, I think fits fairly.
He's a very good complementary playmaker to Marvin, Michael Wilson, and Trey McBride.
He fits pretty neatly into that offensive setup, so I like that.
There we go. Spent a lot of time talking quarterback. I think we land on Malik Willis. Gave him some fixes on both sides of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Sound good?
Yep.
Cardinals fixed. We're on to the Los Angeles Rams. Rams coming off an NFC Championship loss, and they're going to be in an interesting spot here, picking at 13, picking in the late first as well. So 2 first-round picks for the Rams. And I will repeat it once again. The last 2 years, they have tried to trade into the top 10. Are we going to do that as we fix the Rams? And then my question is, how do you balance late career Matthew Stafford coming off of an MVP Matt Stafford at 37 years old? How do you balance late career Matt Stafford versus looking to the future and making sure that you have your succession plan at quarterback and the whole thing?
As much as I think everyone would love to do the Green Bay thing of just going from Favre to Rodgers to Jordan Love over the space of 30 years or whatever that is, I think a more realistic thing is to not quite do what the Saints did, which is like we're going to ride every last ounce out of Drew Brees to the point where we're going to destroy the future for the sake of Drew Brees right now and hope we can get one more. I feel like the actual answer is somewhere in the middle, which is to be aware that when Stafford goes, it's probably over, for at least a period of time, but not to guarantee that it's over, right? Not to, with your current actions, actually guarantee that there is no shot that the next guy is good because he doesn't have the roster around him, but to at least, so you can keep an eye in the future, and if the right, developmental quarterback or potential successor falls into your lap, fine, but don't go out there going, we need to find Matthew Stafford's successors so we can, groom the guy.
I would just say, so they're in a unique opportunity because they have the 2 ones.
Yeah.
And I always say when the Steelers had Big Ben and I was doing the what I would do mock drafts, I would draft quarterbacks for them all the time, and Steelers fans were like, no, we got to win with Big Ben. I always come back to do all the work on all the quarterbacks. And if there's a guy that you would take, if you needed a quarterback that you were like, I love this guy, once you run into the guy that you absolutely love, you take him.
That's what I mean. So if it falls into your lap.
Ty Simpson, right? Yeah. If they love Ty Simpson and then he's there, what do they have, 27? I keep forgetting what their real pick is.
And he's 29.
And he's there at 29. You take Ty Simpson.
Sure.
But if you don't love Ty Simpson, then you go all in for this.
What do they have? 6, 9, 10, 11 draft picks? If one of them should be a quarterback, right? But not to the point where it's we got to take Ty Simpson at pick number 29 because we don't have a Matthew Stafford succession plan yet.
And it doesn't necessarily matter if you love them. That's the whole point about drafting quarterbacks.
That's what I mean.
They loved Les Snead loved Stetson Bennett a couple years ago, and they got him in the mid rounds.
So it's keep an eye on it, but don't go crazy with it.
Anyway, what are we going to do if we're the Rams here? Pretty much all of their starting offensive players, depending on how you look at, say, like Tyler Higbee at tight end, pretty much a lot of their starting 22 actually are back. Cameron Curl, free agent. Kobe Durant, their nickel, a free agent. Pretty much everybody's back.
Yeah, Kobe Durant is a free agent. They've also, Darius Williams, another corner for them, is listed as a popular cut candidate a lot of times.
Who'd you say?
Darius Williams.
Yeah.
He's due 8 million, something like that.
Corner was their weakness last year.
Yeah, but he's often being talked about as a cut. So if you assume he's not back, that's up to them. But if you assume he's not back, that's 2 cornerback spots you need to fill. So that becomes a much bigger
Plus,
thing.
Emmanuel Forbes, he had his moments certainly relative to early in his career, but I don't think he is I don't think he's dependable enough that you're like, yeah, we're good.
No, I mean, a lot like Jackson Powers-Johnson for the Raiders, there's probably signal in the fact that they were randomly benching him quietly and then, just not talking about it. Like, that's not a good sign.
So I think things that, in our last mock, by the way, Carnell Tate dropped, and I would be loving that if I'm the Rams.
I did that, and because we'd already picked Carnell Tate so a couple of times, I redid it. I'm doing another one now that doesn't have him taken at 13.
Some mocks have them doubling up at corner. So things that I think need to happen here. You've got, even though a lot of the starters are back, Devontae Adams, old, last year of his deal. They have 4 offensive linemen in the last year of their deal. So O-line should not be off the table necessarily because they have to figure out, Steve Avila and Coleman Shelton and Kevin Dotson, what they're going to pay those guys going forward, who they're letting walk. So future-proofing the offensive line could absolutely be in play. And then they're going to be paying a lot of good defensive players in the coming years. Kobe Turner, Jared Verse, they're going to have to throw some money at some of those guys. But corner is the most acute need, to the point where if they spent both of their picks at corner in the first round, it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world. I could also see them just saying, we love Caleb Downs. Who's the player that they love?
And going to get him.
Yeah, and going to get him. But we're the GMs here. So what are we going to do?
I saw on Rich Eisen's show, I believe, that Mike Mayock does not believe that Caleb Downs is worth a top 10 draft pick.
Okay.
They still think he's a very good player, but his point was he doesn't make enough plays on the football to go in the top 10. If you're a safety, I need turnovers. I need plays on the football. If you're not making plays on the football, you can't go in the top 10.
I would call Mayock more of an old school football guy, with some, understands the new, but worked for Sumer. A lot of old school football guys that really rely on ball production. You hear this in Daniel Jeremiah's analysis a lot. You hear this in Mayock's analysis. Just purely, did you break up passes? Mm-hmm. Do you have interceptions? I'm not even commenting on whether or not it's right or wrong, but they lean on that a lot.
Yeah.
And that's probably where that's coming from. Specifically what you're saying.
It's always been a thing. I mean, the offensive side has this version as well. It's do you want the kill shot block or do you want a guy who just doesn't lose, right? These are different skill sets. This is why, a Trayvon Diggs, there's a lot of NFL people that always love that more than the guy who just doesn't give up catches, right? And the guy that doesn't give up catches, it's but do you turn the ball over, right? And the guy that turns the ball over, it's it doesn't really matter that he gave up a couple of big plays because, look, we got the ball back. It's a debate, right?
But the question I'd ask more, so it can't go off the rails. The question I'd ask is it actually, if they don't do it in college, will they not do it in the NFL?
Sure.
And vice versa. If they do it in college, will they do it in the NFL?
Well, particularly for a guy
it's not about whether or not – I believe ball production is absolutely valuable. Right. I'm saying is that the best indicator of future ball production, what you do in college? I'm not sure that's the case.
Particularly for somebody like Downs, where you would probably be shifting what you ask him to do at the NFL level. He's unlikely to play as much in the box for a bunch of NFL teams as they did for Ohio State. You're probably going to move him back. When you're moving him back, you're putting him in coverage more. You're giving him eyes on the quarterback more. Theoretically, that should produce more opportunities to go make plays on the ball.
If Downs is having the same exact drop that Kyle Hamilton and Derwin James had, and if I'm the Rams at 13, Brian Branch, I am taking Caleb Downs. I don't know how many plays on the ball.
Degenerative ACL, apparently.
No, I don't know if Brian Branch makes enough plays on the ball.
Did you see that whole thing? I mean, again, at the risk of derailing this whole thing.
We're not derailing. Yes, I saw all of it.
What's the guy's name? Corey
Kinman?
Yeah, he had a report from his rumblings at the combine type of deal.
Rumblings report.
That Caleb Downs had a small meniscus tear or something that was keeping him from the workouts, but also that some teams have reported that he had something that was being termed a degenerative ACL. Now, Corey pointed out in his report, that doesn't mean he'll slip. There's plenty of players that have had reports of degenerative knees and been very good NFL players, but it means at some point the knee will degenerate and that will, whatever. And then McAfee, of all people, decided to play journalist and was like, well, we've asked a couple of NFL teams and they say there's nothing to it. Therefore, this guy's full of shit. You're like, okay, only if they're telling you the truth. You can't. Anyway, the times where McAfee decides I'm going to be a journalist is slightly wild to me. I mean, he isn't and usually doesn't claim to be. But then he's like, no, I'm going to ridicule this guy's report because I asked a couple of NFL teams. I'm journalist now. Like, but what if they're lying to you?
Or there's actually 32 different medical departments, right?
Sure.
We've talked to teams who said, this player's off our board because
Right.
he's got degenerative hip.
Yeah.
Lyle Collins was off a team's board,
Right.
not because of all the stuff that happened off the field, because of his hip. Fully knowing that's our take. Yeah. There's 31 other opinions. He's on boards for other people. So that's the real analysis there.
It's just this, nobody ever thinks critically about what they're doing. It's like, well, I've asked a couple of people and they told me this guy's wrong, therefore this kid's an idiot. And you're like, well, oh yeah, but is it possible that the people you asked are either not telling you the truth because actually they have some interest in that, information being either out there or not, or, as you said, that there are 32 different opinions on said matter, and you just happen to have talked to two that disagree.
If I'm the Bengals
and
at 10,
if that's true,
if I'm the Rams at 13, I am talking about Caleb Downs' old man hips all day.
Right. And if that is the case, if the answer to either one of those questions is yes, did you even think about that before you just decided to put it out there and be like, this guy's a moron? It feels like something you should have done. Anyway, my mock draft for the Los Angeles Rams with their 4 picks in the first 3 rounds. When I redid it and didn't take Carnell Tate in the first 13 picks, Jamal McCoy, Tennessee cornerback at 13. 29, Casey Concepcion out of Texas A&M.
Oh, there we go.
For the offense. Round 2, pick number 61. That's where we get a little bit freaky. Quarterback Garrett Nussmeier from LSU.
Nussmeier in the second. Okay.
And then in the 3rd round, Kyle Lewis. We're going to nominally call him a linebacker, but in a copycat league.
Oh, there we go.
Kyle Lewis is going to be our Nick Emanwari for this defense. So we're going to be the overhang slot, destructive secondary joker.
I like it. Kyle Lewis, the Pittsburgh undersized linebacker who crushed the Senior Bowl, particularly in one-on-one coverage drills. Mm-hmm. Check that out. Google online. Marcus Mosher video, I believe. Mm-hmm. So you're saying he's your
big nickel,
your linebacker safety hybrid.
Linebacker safety hybrid, slot coverage, big nickel, just joker in the defense that's going to ruin your life.
Great. So you got your corner. Yep. And then Nussmeier, second round might be rich, but look, Nussmeier, his best play.
We like Nussmeier. What can I say?
You like Nussmeier?
We, the Rams.
We, the Rams. Yeah. Like him. Free agency-wise, look, they have money to spend too, but because they don't have acute needs, I wonder if that is like Caden Ellis, longer-term contracts. Caden Ellis would fit. I don't know if they have a spot for him, but does he upgrade like an Omar Spites? Spates, sorry. Caden Ellis as a hybrid linebacker. He can blitz, create havoc. I think he fits what the Rams like to do. He'd be a really good fit for them. They don't like to spend at linebacker necessarily. I'm just trying to look at where, if they're going to spend money, I think it needs to be on a longer-term play. Like you're not doing the Kevin Zeitler thing that I always talk about teams, the one-year flyers.
I think you'd like to bring in a veteran cornerback of some description, even if you're drafting McCoy in the first round.
For sure.
Obviously you don't know yet. Jonathan Jones from Washington would be interesting. Greg Newsome would be an interesting one to kick the tires on from their point of view. Again, that's going to depend what the contract looks like. He's theoretically in his prime hitting the big money, but isn't coming off good performances. So how much money can he realistically command?
That's the most likely place where they spend. Just fill needs at corner and safety, and then go from there to the draft.
Also, I feel like we could bring in Jack Jones, right? Because I think at this point,
I was going to suggest if you get 8 good games out of Jack Jones.
At this point, I feel like it's like, let's see how many Sin City cities we can send Jack Jones to and see when it goes off the rails. He survived he survived Las Vegas. He survived Miami-ish. Let's see if we can survive Los Angeles.
He's good for a big game pick 6 every now and then. So save him. I'd bubble wrap him for the playoffs.
You know the way you talked about Zion Johnson's going to get paid, even though tape would suggest that's silly. Another player I saw people talking about who's going to get paid is Cordell Flott. The Giants corner would be interesting. Now, again, if that's the case, if he's going to get bank, I'm not doing that. But he's an interesting name otherwise.
Yeah, I think the money gets spent at corner. Look at the free agent market there. Let the draft come to you. Draft those best players, and then in reality, I am fascinated to see who does Les love this year
in the draft.
Yeah, who does he love? Who does he love and decide I'm going to get him?
You just decided they're trading up. because they tried it.
Well,
twice
just
already.
a reminder to people how we got here and how fascinating the draft process is. The last 2 years, he tried to trade up. He failed. He was unable to do it. It's not failed. And last year, instead of trading up to get Teterow and McMillan.
Isn't that the same thing?
Well, whatever. Like, failure assumes, like, you lose.
On success.
They were unsuccessful to trade up. They wanted Teterow and McMillan at 8, and instead they traded out of the first round. So they go from less, F them picks, I'm going to get my guy, this is what I do. Even though he tried to do that, when it didn't work, he went the other way, and now they have 2 picks this year, right? And so in his head, it was probably like, I would have given up all this other stuff for Teterow. Like, he's just house money, draft picks this year for the Rams. And especially when you look at the 2 deep, doesn't have a lot of holes, I could see him targeting his player again. And I want to know who that is. I'll ask him. And once again, I will see if they'll invite us to the Rams. Like, if we could go live from the Rams draft house.
From the house.
Do all of our draft coverage. Like, they would just be sitting off camera listening to us break down their own
They got
picks.
it's like a different house every year, right? They don't go to the same place every time.
Oh, yeah, I think it's different. Maybe we could get there early in the week. If they get there on Tuesday, we do like a day on a Tuesday, hanging out at the house, previewing the draft, and then we come back for the draft.
I feel like that would be that's a good journalism space to occupy, the embedded life.
How is Jordan Rodriguez not just, did she do that one year? Like, hang out?
Yeah.
She probably did.
But like Peter
behind the
King
scenes
was
of
always
house.
the guy, right? Peter King got himself embedded and all the that feels like a good gig. I'm going to be the embedded guy for this thing. Unless
we can't afford that because we have to do like 26 hours of coverage.
That's right. Somebody's got to pay for it, and it's not us.
I mean, we have to do 26 hours of live coverage draft week.
But also financially, we can't. Like, someone's got to pay for that. Like the combine, brouhaha of like, nobody's here for the offensive line. It's like, yeah, because they've been here a week already. Like, it's costing people $1,500 to rock up there for a full week. Like, that's why. It's like the Rams. You could be embedded in the Rams house. It's going to cost you a lot of money.
It's going to cost a lot. They'd probably charge rent.
I don't think they charge you rent, but you need to fly over there. You need to stay somewhere. You're not going to stay in the house.
Maybe they have guest rooms.
I don't think they let you stay in a
probably
bedroom.
have plenty of guest rooms.
Yeah, but they're like occupied by a war room and a whiteboard and stuff. You can't just kip in the draft house. Like, that's not going to work.
Think about the house with Cliff Kingsbury on staff now, too. Cliff's a big house guy.
Like, you're asleep on the couch in the living room at 7 a.m. when they roll in. That's not going to work.
Who would put a guest on the couch with no blanket? No one would ever do that.
Only an asshole.
We have 2 teams left. I promised we wouldn't go off the rails. Here we are. San Francisco 49ers. We fixed the Rams, by the way. San Francisco 49ers.
In case you weren't paying attention.
Are up next. Man, what a season for the Niners. Got back on track after a 6-win season. They were 1 game away from having the number 1 seed. And then losing the first round pretty handily to the Seattle Seahawks, the juggernaut Seahawks. But what do we have to do? If we're the Niners coming off a 12-5 season, got a little bit of cap space, pretty normal allotment of draft picks as well.
Yes, indeed.
Receiver is a big question coming into this offseason.
Huge question.
Which is funny because it always felt like they were loaded at receiver, and like Ricky Pearsall at the time felt like a bit of a luxury pick, and then all of a sudden it's like, man, we need a lot of receivers.
Well, this is
Brandon
why
Ayuk goes AWOL. You just never know.
It's such a good sort of indication of like whatever you think at the time might not be true. Like you're right, it sort of felt like a luxury, and then once you got past the fact that it felt like a luxury, it seemed like a really smart pick because you're like, well, they're for the future, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they don't really need him now, but they might in a year or two when, some players leave in free agency, when Brandon Ayuk loses his mind and walks off the team. Like, these are the reasons you get the insurance policy for Ricky Pearsall. But then Ricky Pearsall doesn't pan out yet. So now you're like, well, all of a sudden you A, need him, and B, he hasn't shown it yet. So it's a huge year for Ricky Pearsall because this is when they do need him. But all of a sudden, if they don't get him, like if he doesn't take a step forward, this receiving corps goes from like a massive strength to all of a sudden George Kittle is carrying the load again.
Yeah, I mean, the Niners, perhaps what we missed going into last year, because you're a little soured by their 6-win season, which was injuries that caused a lot of kicking issues.
Sure.
Is they still have a lot of high-end talent, right?
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, they had the best left tackle, one of the best edge rushers, the best everything, best linebacker, best fullback,
and
best running back.
On offense.
They still have a lot of that talent.
Yeah, it's like no matter what happens, this team should be extremely talented on the offensive side of the ball.
Nick Bosa coming back off injury, Fred Warner coming back off injury. So there's still that.
Which is basically how
nucleus.
their season went. It's like they could hang with everybody offensively until they ran into the Seahawks. And they're like, okay, now you found the one team that can slow down your offense. And once that happens, you got nothing.
So let's start with this. There were rumblings at the Combine, even beyond that, pretty strong reports that Trent Williams and the Niners are not coming to a deal. Now, we're GM. Are we just, taking care of whatever Trent wants and keeping him?
His money.
Yeah, keep him. I don't want to – I use the phrase whack-a-mole a lot.
You do.
As far as, hey, you solve one problem, it opens up another. I don't want to have to figure out left tackle.
No,
if I'm the Niners.
Particularly not,
Until I have to.
Right.
Until I have to.
Like it's coming eventually, but don't accelerate the process. You've got the money. He's worth it. He's still arguably the best left tackle in the game. Just give him whatever he wants. Yeah. It's not like he's looking for an 8-year, Trent Williams is not out here being like, I want a 5-year contract, right? Like whatever Trent wants, I feel like it's within the realms of reasonable. It's like I'm still arguably the best left tackle in the game. Pay me like the best left tackle in the game, albeit on a short-term, ish deal. Figure it out. Like, it can't be that hard. I mean, yeah, maybe you want to. I feel like the 49ers institutionally want to win the negotiation a bit too much.
As GM, I'm caving to Trent.
Sure.
Caving to Trent.
But don't you feel that's the case? Like, they seem to want to win the negotiation as much as they want to get the player signed. And, I mean, maybe that's the root of this whole Ayuk stuff. That was a fairly acrimonious negotiation when they were getting his deal done, to the point where they were like right about to trade him away to the Steelers before Ayuk finally caved and was like, all right, I'll take your deal. And then they had to send someone running up the stairs to stop John Lynch pulling the trigger and kept him around. But like, it's a bit like the Dallas thing, only for different reasons. I feel like they want to get, like, I want that last 100K. I want I want to win. I want to get the better end of the deal. I want, when this gets public, I want most people to be like, oh, look, the 49ers got a good deal there, as opposed to just find the compromise that makes both people happy and lock them down.
So are we going to assume that we keep Trent Williams?
We are going to say –
are we going to trade him? Are we going to –
We are going to say, and hope it doesn't get back to him, that we are superior negotiators to John Lynch, and therefore we would just lock Trent Williams down and get our left tackle back in the
I will remind him next time we see him at the –
You can do that. You're bigger than him.
At the Combine. Hey, John, we kept – Trent.
I feel reasonably confident in saying that even the current version of John Lynch would hit harder than I do.
I'll text Vincent right now, say whatever Trent wants, we'll take care of it. We'll take care of it. So hopefully there's not a left tackle need if you're the Niners. That changes the course of everything. If you get some, a second-round pick or whatever it might be for the older left tackle, all right, that helps a little bit, but it's just another hole to fill. So what are we doing at receiver? Because Juwan Jennings would be a really nice fit. He's a good fit for a lot of other teams. What are we going to end up doing at receiver here if we're the Niners?
Yeah,
you have Ricky Pearsall. You have DeMarcus Robinson.
I don't think that they're going to pay him what he wants to get paid, even though it would be genuinely the solution to this receiving core. Like, you bring in Juwan Jennings, and he's primed for a bigger role anyway. I think that's part of his thing is, look, I can be a number 2 for a team that needs one. The 49ers haven't let me be that guy. A, the 49ers now could use that, and B, if Ricky Pearsall doesn't work out, they really need that. So, I mean, I would bring back Juwan Jennings, but I don't think they're going to be willing to give him the kind of money that he wants, at which point you're in that market of the Romeo Dobbs of the world again, like a guy that's just a solid number 2 that you don't have to worry about.
Yeah. Pearsall, I don't think is a true 1. I think he's got good speed, big playability. He's had some injury concerns. So you're looking at a Dobbs, more of a possession plus type to complement him. Also wouldn't hate one of those speed receivers to just add to Shanahan's scheme here. The Tyquan Thorntons, 1-year flyer on a Marquise Brown.
What do you think Rashid Shaheed's contract is going to be?
Where's the top end of receiver now? 18?
A guy I don't think I've mentioned for other people, which is surprising because I love Calvin Austin. I would bring in Calvin Austin.
I like that as the speed guy. You got Jamar up at 40. So like Jerry Jeudy's at 17.5, Cooper Kupp's at 15. So Kupp's making 15 in his 30s last year. Like Shaheed might be at 20.
Yeah.
22. Ridley's at 23. Devontae Adams 22.
Bringing return value to the table as well.
Look. I don't know if I'm overrating it, but we're talking multiple years of him as a legitimate deep threat.
Yep.
And that guy's usually a wide receiver 3/4.
And he's other
but I think he's a good enough as a 2.
He's other stuff as well.
Plus the return game.
He does, he can do all your jet sweep, orbit motions, all that kind of stuff. You can hand him the ball off on gimmick plays. He can return both punts and kicks, which is more valuable than it was when the kickoff was basically eliminated. The deep threat, I think there's a lot of value in Rashid Shaheed.
Like Darnell Mooney was at $13 million a year a couple years ago. Yeah. He's that type. Faster version of what Mooney was,
better and does returns,
but with added value, and he's got this recent Super Bowl bump, I guess.
Yeah.
With Shaheed, am I crazy that he's going to be like? I don't think
so. That's what I'm saying. I'm curious. I'm curious what his money ends up being, because I'd be interested in Rashid Shaheed for most teams, but I just don't know if that means that his value is through the roof.
Let's get Shaheed in here.
Let's get him in.
Niners. We'll at least have that discussion. It's an interesting spot because I think offensively, most of their offensive line is intact and signed, other than whatever happens with Trent Williams. They continue to look for backup running back options. They brought Brian Robinson in for the year. I think they need to add depth there. McCaffrey continues to just be an absolute workhorse, but he averaged 3.9 yards per carry last year. He lost a little bit of juice, I think, even though he was great in the pass game. So is there a good complementary running back? I'm sure they'll find one. Algier, by the way, is a really good Shanahan-type zone runner with a different body type that they could be interested in.
Giving up trying to project what Shanahan covets as
he goes back and forth. He just wants a 4-3 guy that take it to the house. He wants Isaac Orendo. He wants Joe Williams. He wants all the 4-3 guys.
Wants all the 4-3 guys.
So,
but there's no rhyme or reason as to what style those guys seem
Mike
to be.
Washington is going to draft because he ran fast.
Okay.
As long as he doesn't fumble this time.
As long as he doesn't fumble.
Defense, though, they need playmakers.
Yes,
so I called last year's Niners draft one of the most important drafts in the NFL because I think they had been depleted depth-wise, and they needed all those guys to step in. Now, ironically, I don't think they stepped in all that well, and they still won 12 games. So
yeah.
Chances are Steve was wrong. Well, no, the foundation of the Niners was strong enough. Purdy's still really good.
Yeah, the offense was still legit.
Offense was really good. The defense is still a big question mark, even if Nick Bosa's back and Fred Warner's back. So they spent, 3 pretty high draft picks, Michael Williams on the edge, Alfred Collins, and C.J. West at defensive tackle. And if they added 2 more, just like the Falcons a couple years ago, the Falcons drafted 3, and then they drafted 2 more edge rushers, and then boom, your pass rush situation now might be resolved. I wouldn't hate the Niners doing something similar. Go back to another pass rusher and maybe another defensive tackle as well.
Yeah, the defensive line, I think they could still hammer. It feels a lot like Carolina from a year ago, where it's you did some work. It hasn't necessarily worked out yet. Keep going until you hit it. Atlanta the year before that as well. They're on a cycle just a year ahead of them where they kind of they did it with second and third round guys. It didn't necessarily work out, so let's go back-to-back first-round picks. Now, 49ers aren't going to do that, but to definitely hit it again, I think, is not at all a bad idea from their point of view.
So they've got Raheem Morris coming in as defensive coordinator. I wonder. So you got to look at all the old Atlanta connections. I don't know. They don't really need Caden Ellis, so I put somewhere else. But he had a great run with Raheem Morris in Atlanta. Logan Hall is a free agent, interior defensive lineman who kind of played that hybrid 3-4 role with Todd Bowles, like that old school 5-tech. Slow first 3 years of his career, but ended up being pretty good last year. I wonder if he'd be a good interior disruptor for them to add to the mix. Because, again, Michael Williams was young, good run defender, bit of a projection as a pass rusher. So I think they just need some overall pass rush juice off the edge, and I think Logan Hall as an interior pass rusher adds a little bit. So if we added Hall to the mix, then who'd be a good straight-up pass rusher to add here? Maybe too rich for Boye Mafe, but more of a second-tier, the group of second-tier rushers. Bring Arden Key back.
Ooh.
Some of those types.
Yeah. Again, Malcolm Kuntz is the guy I want to bring to everybody.
Malcolm Kuntz, right? But a good third edge rusher to go with Nick Bosa, Michael Williams, and also add some depth. I know Keon White still there, right? Or is he a free agent now? Yeah, White's a free agent. What else for the Niners?
I think they need to find a playmaker from somewhere on that offensive side. I think you need more insulation in case Ricky Pearsall doesn't take that step forward. Because suddenly they're in a better situation than they look like they are because we've seen it already that what happens if George Kittle has to become your number one receiver, and it's fine. Like, George Kittle can handle 15 targets a game and actually be your number one receiver, even though he's a tight end, in a way that doesn't work for a lot of teams in the NFL. So I think they're slightly better than they look from just looking at their players.
I loved Kenyon Sadiq for them late first until he had that incredible workout and wonder if he's going to go top 15 now.
Right.
He would be one of my targets there as a playmaker that can fit in with Kittle. And look, I know I'm a little crazy. It takes more than just athleticism to take carries, but
yeah,
I think if you put Kenyon Sadiq he's very good after the catch. I'd be really curious if he had the running instincts.
He's kind of built like a running back. I mean, he's huge,
yeah,
but he's sort of built like a running back shape-wise.
And I only bring that up because we talked about how it breaks defenses. Like that when Debo's in the backfield, you don't know how to match up, and Shanahan knows how to leverage those advantages. So Sadiq would be somebody I'd be real interested in the late first if he's available.
3-round mock for San Francisco.
What do you have?
Zion Young in the first round from Missouri. Now, I did that a couple of times because I wasn't loving the way it was panning out. EMW is another guy, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, the Toledo safety. He was the guy that popped in the first round as well. This time I ended up going with Zion Young. Second round, Dominique Orange, big defensive tackle from Iowa State. Doesn't he have a cool nickname as well?
Big Citrus.
Big Citrus.
Big Citrus.
Great nickname.
That is really good.
Love that.
Really good.
I swear to God, I want him to be good just because
You're
of that.
You're a big nickname guy. If the nickname's good.
Only the good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, if your nickname sucks, I'm not interested. But if your nickname is the Big Citrus, I want you to be good in the NFL. That's all I'm saying. And then third round, 92 overall, safety Bud Clark from TCU. So that's my alternative to the first round EMW.
So there we go. I don't know if we solved receiver other than giving some – Big Goofy is a good nickname.
It is.
It says,
yeah, that's why it stuck.
It didn't stick, though. It's just the one
You
drunk
say
guy.
It didn't stick. How many people bring that up in the chat? Big Goofy, it stuck. Maybe not for, in your
the
baseball
9-year-old
career.
that was shouting Big Goofy at me back in 2009 is, an adult now.
Right.
And
But maybe –
I wonder if he remembers that his drunk dad had him calling me an opposing pitcher Big Goofy during a AAA baseball game.
Maybe it didn't stick in the baseball circles, but it certainly stuck in the annals of the podcast.
49ers fixed. Let's go fix the Super Bowl champs. Seattle Seahawks, to wrap it up here today. We use fixed in air quotes. They're the Super Bowl champs, but there's always work to do. Next year, it's a whole new season.
Maintenance.
Seahawks coming off of their Super Bowl, and for a Super Bowl team, they got a lot coming back.
Yeah.
And a lot of flexibility
They're in
cap and the whole
really good shape. They might be in the best shape of any team for a while, given what's happened.
One of the biggest bargains in the NFL is it's not the first contract quarterback. I mean, in addition to the first contract quarterback, it's the Sam Darnold deal.
Right.
Which
is still kind of a bargain.
It's getting a quarterback in a $30 million range, or what the Lions did with Goff a couple years ago, where most of the bonus is already paid for. You trade for him, and then all of a sudden he's making only 25 to 30 on your cap. So that adds some of the flexibility for Seattle. The big potential losses here, you've got Boye Mafe, Rashid Shaheed, a couple of the guys that we keep saying are hitting free agency. You have Kobe Bryant at safety, Josh Jobe, and Reek Woolen at corner for players that need to be replaced. So definitely some work to do in the secondary for the Seahawks. And then Rashid Shaheed was a nice pickup, but this was anticipated, right? They pick him up halfway through the season, trade a pick for him, see if they end up getting a comp pick for him, depending on what they do in free agency as well and what he makes. But you still have JSN, Cooper Kupp, and the great Torrey Horton, and Jake Bobo, by the way.
Jake Bobo.
On this team.
Yeah.
So what are we doing?
They're in good shape.
Entire offensive line's locked up. I would say right guard still needs an upgrade.
Yeah.
Anthony Bradford
was problematic at times last year.
If I could do the Zeitler doesn't want to play on the West Coast. Doesn't want to go to the Chargers. Doesn't want to go to Seattle, but I'd be Zeitler.
Could I interest you in the Pacific Northwest?
Yeah.
Technically, it's the West Coast, but, it's different.
Coffee-infused, dreary, rainy place.
Right. It's green. You don't see this kind of green down in L.A.
How's that feel for you?
Yeah.
I would love to see them upgrade at right guard. I'm not sure there's a clean, like, would you buy low on like a Wyatt Teller from the Browns? He hasn't been good for a few years.
Really rough couple of years.
Yeah.
He was so good and then suddenly ceased to become so good.
There's not a lot of, left tackle, right tackle, left guard, right guard matters when you're talking 8 to 10 years into your career. So you're not just taking any guard. There's not a lot of great
entrenched there for years.
Right. Like, there's not a lot of great straight right guard options in free agency. Greg Van Roten, maybe. But I want to upgrade at right guard.
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily have to directly replace Rashid Shaheed, but you probably need some more wide receiver depth. But you definitely have to attack the secondary. And if you can get that sorted in free agency, then you're back into drafting. Just keep drafting the best players.
Yeah. My assumption is that Torrey Horton basically replaces what they had in Rashid Shaheed. I think he was doing that before he got hurt. So I'm kind of assuming he can step into that role. But you're right. They could use just an injection of some talent into that receiving core. Obviously, JSN is amazing. Cooper Kupp is reaching the end of his career, even though he's still capable of some big plays. Torrey Horton could be a pretty decent player for them, but then if he isn't, suddenly it's a problem area.
So much of the defensive line coming back. So you lose Mafe, but like you're still 7 or 8 deep.
Yeah.
On the D line, can always add. Like every single team can add to the D line, and DeMarcus Lawrence getting a little bit older, which last year at this time I was saying would be a beautiful buy low candidate. They got him for just over $10 million or almost $11 million a year, and ended up being a great buy low in free agency for them.
Would you bring back either of the cornerbacks that they have hitting the market? I think I would want to bring back either Josh Jobe or Reek Woolen.
Probably Jobe for the price. I think Woolen, some people are going to pay for Reek Woolen. Pretty good 4-year run for him as a long freak athlete. I don't know what was happening there with being in and out of the lineup, whatever was happening with McDonald in the defense. I'm assuming he's gone.
I feel like there may
be... But Jobe, every time he had to fill in, was pretty solid.
Yeah.
He's still the weakness there, though.
I feel like there may be some, I don't know if maturity is the right word, but like that's the area I think that the concerns are for Rico. Remember, he got one of the dumbest penalties of the season where he like made a play and then started taunting the sideline. It's like you just offset the play. Like you got them off the field and now they've got the ball back with a first down because you were jawing at the sideline to the point where you did it like beyond when the ref was telling you to knock it off. It's like genuinely one of the stupidest penalties anybody committed this year, and could have been huge for them. Ended up getting away with it, but like that's the kind of thing that really pisses coaches off.
Would they see about a Greg Newsome?
Yeah, maybe.
Potentially, given his age.
Right.
Because you're looking for a long-term play at corner. We gave them D'Angelo Pons at pick 32. Made a little bit of a statement there with Pons, but because he's over 180, I don't care that he's short. I think he play outside. I think he play outside. Go watch him cover Jeremiah Smith one-on-one.
He
can play outside.
I thought we were out there with some of the draft picks we made in our post-combine reaction, make a statement mock, and there were like real other people being like, "This is what I think is going to happen." That were
real statements,
just as crazy as as the picks we were making.
We snuck Jacob Rodriguez, D'Angelo Pons, guys that are talking, day 2 type of picks. Right. Pretty clear day 2 picks. We're like, what if they went in the first?
Right.
Let's see what happens.
And then Sando had I talked to 4 NFL decision makers, and 2 of them had Keldrick Falk going at 4.
That was surprising, given the pass rush questions. But as a 20-year-old, body, projectable, he's already a good football player.
Yeah.
We need to do a detailed breakdown on Falk because I think there's some comparisons to the Tyree Wilson, Trayvon Walker discussions, but it's not like for like.
Right.
Not like for like with that.
I mean, if he goes at 4, that's going to ruin the back-to-back Falk-Mesidor thing.
Sure will.
Nobody's taking Mesidor at 5.
No, not at 25 years old. So, look, Seattle's in pretty good shape. There's a couple of those free agents. I bring up Monteric Brown again. Like, he wasn't great, but just kind of like played pretty well for the Jags. Most of these other corners, I think, are a little bit older. Nashawn Wright, do they buy into Nashawn Wright's elite season?
That's the one. Because
Nashawn
Wright to me is like the Geno Stone from a few years ago. Like that's the one that screams regression next year.
I know.
Is he going to do that again? Maybe, but I'm not. I'm going to let someone else find that out.
Jalen Watson from the Chiefs be a nice. He was one of the got some. He'd be a good outside corner for them, maybe to complement the other guys.
Mm-hmm.
Already got Eamon Wari, you got Devin Witherspoon, you've got that flexibility. Do you just want that pure outside corner?
Right. No, carry on.
No, that's pretty much it. So I think right guard, secondary, got to replace Kobe Bryant. There's an interesting safety class. Jaquan Brisker, get Brisker in there with Julian Love, potentially. How's that?
Yeah.
I like that mix. And Eamon Wari, of course, and his flexibility. So I like that. So giving them some options, and then you get to the draft and you draft the best players. And I think you're tying up JSN and Devin Witherspoon, just get those long-term deals done. They're also going to get to this point where they probably have to redo Darnold's contract now that he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And that might start with a 5 instead of a 3 very soon. So you just have to maneuver the money so that you maintain your flexibility here.
Which is fine. I mean, we said they got a lot of money to spend. They've got a lot of players under contract. Like, this is the type of thing that you can do with that, right? You can then extend Darnold. It doesn't cripple you. It's fine.
Yeah, so I'd get those guys tied up, and then you just continue to get younger where you can. Like, if the right player's there at 32 on the edge, like, do they care about Cassius Howell's arm length? You know, what if he was just he's your Boye Mafe explosive edge rush replacement?
I think
you might be able to get him in the second now because of the arm
definitely.
length.
I think Howell's going to end up being a steal for somebody who's going to not look beyond the arm length, and someone's eventually going to go, you know what, he's just good, so let's bank on these two guys, Howell and Bain. They're already outliers. The fact that, again, nobody who's got arms that short has been drafted in the top 100, right, ever. Bain was being talked about in the top 10 up until the stumpy arms thing came up, and now he's still seen as a clear first rounder, and people are saying, man, if he reaches us at 15 or whatever, it'd be great. And Howell, okay, he might slide out of the first round now because of his arms, but they're still, nobody's doubting he's going to go in the top 100 picks. So both these guys are already outliers to even being talked about in this area, at which point there's reason to say that they can be the outlier of the guy that'll be good at the next level, because the fact that we're even discussing them in this area means they're already outliers at that size. So I think that Howell's going to end up being a steal for somebody.
Last thing that we do need to address with the Seahawks, because we tend to neglect running back a little bit in these breakdowns.
Yeah.
But
to hell with him.
Super Bowl champion Ken Walker, MVP. Ken Walker, not going to get tagged, is the report. So he'll hit free agency. Zach Charbonnet coming off of his injury. I don't know how much that creeps into next year, getting hurt right at the end of the season. But he ends into the last year of his rookie contract as well. So they might be in the market for 2 running backs. I think I was going to say it's potentially something that they address in the draft. It's not the deepest draft class.
Yeah.
But if you draft like a Jonah Coleman's one of my favorite beyond Jeremiah Love running backs. I think that would be a great option. And then you look at the Rashad Whites of the world, maybe, in free agency.
That would be a fun one.
Rashad White, Tyler Algier, some of those running backs that aren't the top tier, but I think could be Rico Dowdle. If Charbonnet's healthy, could he 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons maybe for Dowdle?
Dowdle.
Press the button.
Dowdle had it was an interesting year last year where there were flashes of Dowdle, and then the rest of it wasn't that great.
Yeah, what was it? What was the stat? In the free agent video, it was like 60% of his yards came across like a 5-week period. Right. Maybe more, but more. So, do we fix the Seahawks?
Sure.
Or help them go back-to-back? That's what I should say.
Back-to-back.
How are we helping the Seahawks go back-to-back? And then, keep hitting in the draft, John Schneider. You go on these runs. It's tough to maintain, but he's on a run right now of bringing in a ton of talent in the last 3 or 4 drafts, even before Mike McDonald got there.
Didn't love their draft when I ran it through. I got Brandon Cisse in the bottom of the first round, South Carolina cornerback.
Yeah.
Second round, Skylar Bell, UConn wide receiver.
Had a really good workout, combine.
And then third round, Penn State safety Zaki Wheatley.
Yeah. That feels like one of those drafts.
All right.
I always ask, was there ever a draft that you just missed? Like you just missed a couple good players that you want? That feels like it just missed.
Right.
Like a second tier of the players that I actually want.
It's here's who you were targeting instead.
We still fixed the Seahawks, though.
Yeah.
We did it. That's it. AFC and NFC West in the book. We're halfway through the league. We'll finish tomorrow and Friday. So tomorrow, 9 a.m. What do we have for tomorrow? North or South? Probably the North is my assumption. We always end with the South, right? We'll see. We'll fix some divisions, some teams tomorrow. We'll do the same thing Friday, 9 a.m. each of the next 2 days. And then next week, I don't think we're going to go live Monday at 9 a.m. We're going to push it to noon. Noon is when the legal tampering period starts, and we're just going to go live, and we're just going to hang out. We're going to sit here. Might bring in an extra couple computers, to try to track everything.
Really?
One extra computer, maybe. Extra monitors, just to get everything to track.
Wow.
Extra, it's like we're live, so it's serious.
Okay.
A lot going on. We'll need food.
Yeah.
We'll need food here.
You could get one of those big, 4-monitor setups that just completely covers your face.
That'd be great.
For
I'm
the
just
shot here.
behind
I'll be
the
here as normal, and then you will just be a 4-monitor setup. And then every now and again, you can poke your head over it.
You need the draft room, you need the room set up. You need to feel like we're working hard here. My favorite free agent moment a couple years ago we had when we were at PFF, we had Brad Spielberger come in to cover it live with us and react to the contracts. And
now player agent, Brad Spielberger.
Now agent. And the three of us were going live, and Chris was in the office, and he said something like, "Hey, I'm going to lunch." And I think Brad misheard him. He said something like, "Do you guys want anything?" Or I forget what he said, but Brad was he went full order.
Yeah.
We ended up getting burgers and fries. Right. We had a great lunch.
Brad just basically,
I think Chris was just like, "Hey, I'm going to lunch."
Right.
And Brad's like, "Yeah, grab me a burger."
That was exactly what it was. Yeah. Chris was like, "I'm going to lunch," and Brad is like, "Great, if you could give me this sandwich back." Yeah. Brad basically strong-armed Chris into buying his sandwiches.
Double bacon, double burger, and we were like, "Yeah, same."
Right. Brad basically strong-armed Chris into buying us all sandwiches.
Move.
It was perfect.
Just misheard him, and we got lunch out of it, so that was great. So, yeah.
It's like it was a full Uno reverse card, that's exactly the kind of thing Chris would do. Someone's going out to lunch, great, bring me back a sandwich or whatever, right? Oh, he must have been doing that for decades.
Yeah,
it's probably the first time it's ever happened to him. Brad's literally springs it back on him, and Chris ends up coming back with a bag of sandwiches for us.
Chris Collinsworth delivered lunch. He comes in with this huge bag of lunch, plops it on the table. What'd you have?
I mean, look, fair play to Chris. He bought us sandwiches.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah. We're
pretty hilarious that Brad is just yeah, great, I'll have a whatever.
I've seen Chris order something that was not on the menu before,
of course.
Right? Just sitting there in lunch in New York City. He's like, I feel like salmon.
Yeah.
I'll take salmon.
Right.
You have salmon?
You've got to
catch a fish.
Got to have one in the fridge.
Catch a salmon for me. That's what I want.
Yeah.
I know it's not on the menu, but that's what I'm feeling like right now.
As the chat says, that's why Brad's an agent now.
That's
an agent move.
It's a great move.
Neither one, you or me wouldn't have done that.
To this point, though, Brad's not one of them agents. He's not
corrupted.
Yeah, he's not corrupted.
Still pure.
We're not. It's not.
But obviously, it's in him. I mean, that's an agent move. Great idea. I'll have the steak sandwich. Bring it back.
Maybe Chris wants to send us lunch again this year.
Feels unlikely.
Though
maybe he's coming to some money.
Wow. All right, with that, thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll see you again tomorrow, 9 a.m. More Check the Mic.